Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores. Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240 Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the Smite Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible Smite experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
Good morning, Smite fans, and welcome to the Smite World Championship Placement Week. My name is J-Mac Tucker. We're going to be joining with a lot of great action this week, and a lot of that can be thanks to our title sponsor, Alienware. Thank you so much for being the title sponsor here in Season 8 of the Smite Pro League. Make sure to go to smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW. Check out all the cool things that Alienware has to offer, like the Aurora Ryzen 10 desktop and the 25-inch 240 Hz gaming monitor, all available to you over at smitegame.com/Alienware. Make sure to follow them on their social media on Twitter and Instagram at Alienware, and go to alienwarearena.com to join the ever-growing global community. It's Smite Placements Week. We've got a lot of action. It's 6 days jam-packed full of great games. We're going to be starting it off with some of the SCC elimination games. It's J-Mac and Goremizer joining me here on the desk for set number 1.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for this. Like you said, the SCC teams, like two teams are getting eliminated today no matter what happens. Yeah. And it's interesting because for a lot of people, myself included, like I was moving the weekend that these teams qualified. I had to go back and watch it because like it's been 2 months since we've seen these guys qualify for this.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen any of the SCC and SOC teams, and I have to mention that because CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB was the SOC team in that circuit playoffs. Let's take a look at the schedule for Group A. Now, we'll talk more about the Group B schedule later on. Today is going to be the WINNERDOGS and CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB for our first set. Tomorrow, the winner of this will face off against the Leviathans, and we have the Scarabs and the Warriors. That's also going to be happening tomorrow. And then we take a little bit of a break from Group A. We move into Group B on Thursday, but then you can see everything according to it. I know it looks a little bit confusing to you guys. It will become a lot more clear as we also take a look at the bracket here for Group A, because we do have 2 separate groups that these two teams are playing in. This one is just specifically in Group A, and I can kind of see a whole little breakdown really of how all the schedule is going to be working out.
Yeah, the biggest thing to pay attention to here, not only just the scheduling and like the timing of it, but realistically, if you look at match 4, the first one under the finals, and then you look at the last chance, like those are the two like quote unquote most important ones. Those are the two that the winners will be going to Worlds. Like that's where things matter the most for these teams. It is double elim after today though, so that gives these teams a little more wiggle room. And honestly, Group A is going to be interesting because we just watched the Scarabs and the Warriors a few weeks ago go to a 5-game set against each other. So it'll be fun to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, the big thing there is that the winner of finals on best of 5 match 4, winner of that is going to be a team going to Worlds.
Yep.
The loser of that then has to play the third place match's winner. That's our last chance match. That'll be on Sunday where we send the final 2 teams home. So it'll be 2 teams from each of these groups of teams that will be going to the World Championship to give us our grand total of 6. They're going to be meeting up with the Titans and the Kings who have already qualified. Before we get into any of those, though, we do have to start with our first elimination match of the day. A loser of this set will be going home, and it's Captain Odi Fan Club being our first team up here. If you're unfamiliar with who Captain Odi Fan Club is, you might know them by their former name of Kazakhs Fan Club, now renamed to Captain Odi Fan Club in memorial and remembrance of Captain Odi, who did just recently pass away. And this team is here to show their support of that player and to show their love and remembrance towards him. And the players on this team, man, this is a star-studded roster of players out here. Bevi Matsu, who came out explosive. Rapio, who's been around the scene for a while. You have Gunter, Calvin, and Vaporish Coast, the Penta Kid, on this roster.
Yeah, so it's easy to talk about Coast because Coast is just really good at Smite, as it turns out, and has been for a while. If you've been watching anywhere, you know, whether it was console way back in the day or if you've been watching any of the Challenger circuit, you should know a lot of these names, but you should definitely recognize Coast. I'm actually going to give shout-outs not just to Rapio, who I think is a fantastic jungler, but realistically, I want to hone in on Calvin a little bit, and it's just because as a support player, he stands out for his team. He's done a lot. There were a lot of games where they weren't having the best of times overall during their regular season, and something that Calvin was able to do really help offset some of that and kind of get them back on track. I think this team works well together, and I honestly am really excited to see what they have. Again, it's been 2 months. We've got technically, I guess, 3, maybe 4 patches since the last time we saw them in competitive play at this level, and so I know a lot of these teams have been scrimming. I think from the last time that we watched in Phase 3 playoffs, we had the 8-11 bonus and now the 8-12 patch that we're going to be kind of messing around with. So I really want to see how these teams have adjusted. You're noticing gods like the Hunbats that are getting played, and nothing that was as typical as what we saw. I think Ullr was still meta last time we watched Coast as well, so a lot of things have kind of shifted in their dynamics, and I'm really excited to see how they've shifted along with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want kind of a perspective as to how long it's been since we've really seen these two teams, we did the entirety of Phase 3 of the SPL after we did that, that matchup. So that's been a long time since we've seen these players. I'm very curious to see how they're adjusting to the meta, as well as the WINNERDOGS, who is going to be their opposition today. But they're not really a team who plays by the meta necessarily,
No.
Gore. This is a very outlandish team, especially when it comes to their mid laner, Benny Q. I'm very curious how this team is going to be handling these current updates.
Yeah, realistically, it's a team you've got 4 people who will play the meta, and then you've got Benny, who's going to throw a wrench in a lot of things. That being said, I will say Benny Q as a mid laner has been surprisingly refreshing. It was kind of weird to think about. I've always watched Benny and always seen him for years and years in the duo lane, and that's kind of what I came to expect. But switching over to play these mages, first off, it helped when Soul and things like that were in the meta because you've already got a lot of that tracing history. But bringing in a lot of different gods, I know the Merlin was one that was a big favorite, despite the fact that he fell out of meta for a lot of the teams, especially up in the SBL. So I'm expecting the mid lane to be this point where the WINNERDOGS are going to be able to find an advantage. But realistically, if you look at the pillars they've got on the side as well, you've got Aquarius with Kirmi helping out in the jungle, then you've got Wowie with Sybil helping out in the duo lane. I think they've got 3 really stable pillars across the map that's going to make it a lot more difficult for the Captain Odi Fan Club to be able to come in and topple them. I think they've got a lot of fallback plans. If one person falls behind, whether it's from a weird off-meta pick like a Wukong mid, although Benny still makes it look good sometimes, or if they just happen to be falling behind because of a bad matchup early on, they have so much that they can lean on, and they're really good at adapting to that.
I mean, it was a pick that worked out so well for this team. We even saw it kind of leak into the SPL a couple of times with the Camelot King, so they brought in the Wukong mid between that, the Kabrak. I mean, we could talk to the ends of the earth about things that Benny Q may or may not pick out here. Anubis was always like a game.
Doesn't exist in the game. Benny Q might play it. That's pretty much the list.
That might be the most accurate way to depict that. Is Benny Q is kind of like the homage to Season 2, Season 3 Smite solo lane. If it existed in the game, you could play it in solo back then. He's kind of that same way here in mid. These two teams are going to be battling out in best of 5. It's best of 5 sets all week long. No best of 3s anywhere along the way. So you are jam-packed with Smite action, not just today, not just tomorrow, but throughout the entirety all the way up until Sunday. Again, elimination is up for one of these teams. One team, they go home if they lose this set. The other one has to go off and face against, I believe it was Leviathans, who's going to be their opposition tomorrow.
Talk about a prize.
Yeah, talk about a prize for really any of these teams. You have the Leviathans on this one. I mean, the next match later on is going to be there. That's face off against the Jade Dragons.
Yeah.
I mean, man, talk about your prize for winning the elimination. But you do at least get a second chance later on down the road. So there is some silver lining, even if you do win here, potentially lose up against the team you're facing off next to the Leviathans. There is still some hope for them to still make this Worlds run.
Yeah, that's actually the thing that I think is most exciting for this. Like, again, for a lot of this, we're moving 4 teams forward, which seems like a lot, but it's 2 from each group, so you're going to have some large eliminations that come through. But, I mean, if you're looking at CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, that's an SOC team that still technically has a chance to make it to the World Championship and potentially get to the finals there, right? It's a long, arduous path for them to be able to do that, but it is technically still a possibility. They just have a lot of work cut out for them. Same thing here for WINNERDOGS, except for SOC, or SCC instead of SOC. And again, it comes down to adaptation and things like the meta, because I had mentioned when we did Phase 3 playoffs, we were on 8-11 at the time. Now there was the 8-11 bonus, I believe, at the end of November. Then 8-12 dropped literally today. If you're watching this, Atlas is in the game. Have fun with that. That's going to be a lot to be able to go do. But you also get things. We're not going to see Atlas. He's banned.
Unfortunately.
That's a Season 9 thing. Don't think about that now. But for other things like Book of the Dead, that was like a huge patch. We've not seen either of these teams competitively play with that item, with Zeus all of a sudden jumping up to the top, with Opwash actually being something that you can consider and not get laughed at for. Like, things like that I think are really going to be interesting. Mainly more for CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB. I think Benny Q was already playing things like Anubis, so there's a good chance that they just do the same thing already, but it'll be fun to see how they adapt to some of those, even with, like, I think Book of the Dead just got nerfed today, just slightly, so there's a couple of things that are going to shift it, but a lot of these things we saw at the Phase 3 playoffs are going to be heavy-handed today.
I mean, yeah, cool. We get Atlas. That's awesome. All of you at home, if you get your opportunity to now
don't
jump
get
on
Atlas.
8.12, everybody at home gets the chance to play Atlas today. But one thing that I'm very interested in, Gore, is now Kleena is available to play. And we didn't get an opportunity at all to see her because technically she was banned. But this is the first time that we get to see a competitive opportunity for Kleena. We'll get ready to hop now into picks and bans for game number 1 and see if she'll get to see the light of day in our first one. And just kind of the talk of the town on this god. She is straight damage, and she does a lot of it.
And it's wild to me. It's like the most me thing ever as well to focus in on items and be like, yeah, so here's some like really small minutia changes. Terra's available again for if you watch the Phase 3 playoff. She was banned, and I completely forgot there's literally a new god available. This is actually going to open up a lot of conversations if she doesn't get banned, because she can walk through walls, dude. It's not just the damage, she can go through the wall, and it is incredibly fun to watch that. Like, if you've been watching streams, the kind of setup that she can provide, as well as the getaway, like, there's a lot of survival capabilities because you can just get out, and if they jump over the wall, cool, you can just turn around and walk out the other side. Like, there's so much juke capability in this god, along with the damage. The setup is really fun. I think it's going to be interesting to see the junglers and their take on this pick.
Yeah, we have Erlong, Shen, and Hell as the first 2 bans here for the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB. On the other side, though, it's Morrigan and Izanami as the first ones banned away. There's a lot of big things up and available in the opportunity for either of these 2 teams to pick. We did see a lot of nerfs come throughout in the bonus patch specifically. We had Nike, who received a bit of adjustment, especially with her barrier formation. That was kind of one of the big hits to her. Erlong, Shen, Ardio, the Morrigan, all of these gods getting nerfs. We are still seeing some of the priority, at least for a couple of them, in bans.
And I actually think this is worth mentioning because Hell, with Hell, Aphrodite getting banned, that's a lot of focus on healers. With Camazotz here, somebody that we talk about notoriously a ton with sustain. But in that bonus balance in 11.5 from November 30th, there was a buff to the global anti-heal on the Conquest map. So out-of-combat healing is even worse now, technically, than it was. And yet these picks are still very, very profitable just because you look at Hell, you look at Afro. Guess when their healing's at its best in the middle of a fight, right? So you're not getting that global anti-heal, which I think is going to make it even more of a challenge for a lot of these teams dealing with it. We talk a lot about anti-heal items. I know like Divine Ruin had gotten buffed that patch and things like that, but there's a lot that I think is still on the plate and on the table for these teams to have to handle in terms of healing.
Yeah, it was Aphrodite as the last bandit. Geb on the side of the Winner Dogs. First picks out, though, Camazotz that you were highlighting there, the RTO and Ganesh, instantly getting some of those frontliners out here for the Winner Dogs, making sure to lock in the solo lane and that support role. And then a Heimdall, so still seeing a lot of favoritism towards this god. Didn't receive any kind of adjustments, to my knowledge, in any of these balances. We have seen a very slight difference in some of the Hunter builds, but I don't think any of that seems to really be affecting Heimdall. And then Sylvanas, still showing some heavy priority there for the support role.
Yeah, honestly, we could 2 months ago, I'd believe Odie was playing this anyway. This is exactly like, again, like you said, Camazotz, nothing much has changed. Heimdall is pretty much the exact same as he was. Sylvanas, for a lot of these teams, has just gotten better over time and been more proof. Whereas, like, on the other side, yeah, first off, Kleena, but also Ganesh, I'm just going to throw this out there, during his ohms, knock-up immune, that's kind of cool.
That is a very nice buff for how long you have to.
It's a good buff.
You do have to sit there and channel that for quite a long time and meditate and silence your enemies. But now that you get knock-up immunity, it makes it a little bit tastier.
How do you spell Kleena, dude? And that's gonna ruin my spreadsheet. I'm gonna have so many typos.
That's always one of my things. Is some of these god spellings, I have to go back and double check that I spelled it, like Kumakarn, Ratatosker, Kleena. I always have to go back and make sure that I spelled them right before I can ever even look to see what's going on beyond there. But Kleena is the final pick for the Winner Dogs before we get into the second round of bans. We saw an Odin and a Nike banned away here on those Winner Dogs. And now looking at Shibalanke, who did get a little bit of a buff right before we jumped into this round of competitive.
Yeah, and like it's a really weird. When I look at this draft, it's actually going to end up being the Charybdis, which I like a lot more because if that had been Shibalanke, I'm sitting there thinking you're not playing this game for like 5-10 minutes. Like you're just chilling. Kleena's maybe doing a lot for your team, but like Shibalanke Ganesh, you're not really trying to outlane Heimdall Sylvanas. I think even with Charybdis, it's going to take a little bit that Sylvanas really does ramp up the amount of clear they have. So I'm expecting early pressure on the side of Odie. But this Kleena's, again, just going to throw a wrench in everybody's plans because she can do so much that it at least is going to open things up. Camazotz is going to be able to keep up with her in terms of pace, but I'm really excited to see what Winner Dogs can do.
Tiamat and Osiris, the next two picks here for Captain Odie Fan Club. And that piques a little bit of my curiosity here. We saw the Camazotz as kind of that first lock-in. And my mind immediately jumps over, okay, this is probably a Rapio god. But now we see Osiris, and he hasn't really seen a whole lot of solo lane action as of recent.
No.
So then this kind of begs question, do you think this Camazotz score is going to be going over towards the solo lane?
You know, that's a tough question, honestly. I like the idea, I think, of Camazotz going over there. I think you've got Artio. You're not necessarily worried about too much. And honestly, Camazotz might be able to survive a lot of that lane phase and a lot of the gank potential better than an Osiris over there. And like you said, Osiris has been really, really solid in the clear. I think both of them can swap. It just depends on how much you want that Lord of the Afterlife being able to keep up with someone like Kleena. Having anti-heal available pretty much anywhere on the map, as well as just a really powerful leap, is going to be solid. He's got the mitigations as well to keep up in a lot of these fights, whether or not he's there early on because of jungle pressure, if he's there late game because of solo lane pressure. I think they're just happy to have the pick.
So now you're back over to the Winner Dogs, and I was gonna ask what their last pick might be.
I think this is mid.
And now that I see this chalk, I'm kind of in agreement with you here, Gormizer. I think that this is. I know. Now, this was this one was an extreme shot in the dark, and I'm only going to throw it out there because I've seen him do it a couple times. I have seen Benny Q play Ganesh mid a few times. I don't think that's happening here. Even if it is game one, you have a little bit of room to play. But Shock as the final selections, you have Artio, Ganesh, and a Shock as some of your hard front line for this team. Gormizer, how you liking the chance of Captain Odie up against this Winner Dogs draft?
Man, I don't know what to expect out of this Winner Dogs draft. And this is the weird thing. This is the kind of stuff they would run normally.
Yes.
And they were successful with it. So I can't discount it. It's weird, but it is things that they have been successful with in the past. Chalk mid is not something I am entirely used to. And I will say I'm assuming a lot that it is going to be like that, but when I look at the rest of this draft, I sincerely hope that's what they're sending there. But if you look at least at Captain Oti, this is going to be more of a realm of normalization, right? You've got a very powerful duo lane that's going to find control early on. You've got one of the best mid laners in the game in Tiamat. Even though she fell off in terms of priority, she is still incredibly powerful. We got to see that during the Phase 3 playoffs. You can ban out all the healers and deal with that problem. Tiamat still puts up 40k damage in a single game most of the time, if not more in some circumstances. So you've got a really good late game team fight, good survivability, and good setup on the side of Captain Oti Fan Club. The only thing I'm a little upset with, and it's just because Heimdall's going to be kind of the primary carry. We see a lot of initial damage from Tiamat, but she's not normally the one that's, except for BMT, who gets quadra kills on her consistently. She's not the one I think of as like the hyper carry. And so it feels like a little bit of weight that's going to be falling on the Camazotz Heimdall, but that's such a small note considering how much damage output and survivability they have. Whereas on the other side, you're going to need a little while for this Ganesh to start to feel up. We haven't gotten to see Kleena in these plays, but admittedly, I expect a little bit of time, a little bit of warm-up for her, especially when you have Shock mid to bounce off of. That might actually be some kills in mid that might be the most important. But with Artio on one side, Charybdis and Ganesh, it feels like the mid lane is going to be explosive, and that's going to be pretty much where the WINNERDOGS have to win to make sure they sustain their early game.
Yeah, because one of those things about Kleena that is the thing is she does a lot of damage, yes. She's very lacking in CC, only has a slow on the veil of her ultimate, and you have the one little silence that pops in. But there's the cool little stealth mechanic that you have when you throw out that flickering visions. It's always an interesting thing to watch because from a spectator point of view here, we still see everything that's happening. We still get to see Kleena, all that kind of good fun. But if you get hit by that flickering experience, you don't get to see her. You have to depend entirely on your teammates to try and call her out.
Also, she can walk through walls.
That's
I think I said that, but I'm going to say it again.
It's cool.
That's one, for one, it's really cool. But two, talk about trying to chase someone down. Again, there's so many opportunities. And this is something I never thought of in Smite. For some time, like if you're going for a leap, you know typically how thick a wall is and whether or not I can jump over this one or where I need to stand in order to jump over a certain one. With Kleena, you now have to think, how long can she stand in that, and like how much of a gank potential, like what angle is she going to come out? You never thought of the thickness of the walls until now. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's Captain Oti Fan Club and WINNERDOGS for our first game and our first set of the Smite World Championship placements. Let's take it right over to David Mifflin to bring game number one.
And the pressure is already on for both of these teams. Captain Oti Fan Club and the WINNERDOGS, no room for error in this best of 5 set. Because, Miff, if you lose here in the first round, these two SCC teams, one SOC team, I suppose, you're going home. But the winner, they get a chance to go up against the Atlantis Leviathans tomorrow, if they're able to end up finding a win here. And it's no surprise, Miff, that is the WINNERDOGS who are bringing out a unique composition to start off the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, unique's a pretty decent way to phrase it, I suppose. Unique insofar as the entirety of the Smite, but maybe not so unique for themselves.
Right.
It's something that you could very much expect the WINNERDOGS to play consistently in competitive. Chalk and mid should be a great center of pressure for your team. Benny Q's going to have pretty decent scaling, I'd argue. Pretty strong, especially if he decides to go towards that Transcendence, as he is apt to do on these warriors in mid. And worth noting, Chalk's heal scales with power. So you're still effectively becoming tankier when you go for these full damage builds, just because of how much healing this Chalk is going to be afforded.
You know, I've always jokingly said Chalk is one of the better gods in the game just because of what he can do. You know, you can teleport, you can heal, you can do damage.
Slow, silence,
Slow, silence, right? You got plenty of it. Maybe a chance for Benny Q to show us exactly why I'm right. Kiermi jumped on into the wall he goes. And the first bit of Kleena gameplay we get to see is the wall being a disengage there for Kiermi.
Kiermi very nearly lost his opportunity to walk through that wall. Once you're below a certain HP threshold, you're not allowed to do that. And he almost falls just below, and had that been the case, likely would have fallen down for first blood as well. But Kiermi, on the new god, Kleena, does get to play this high damage output playstyle. I'm expecting a Bump the Sphere a little bit later on, just generally going for this one-shot style of build. But I think Kleena, in the current meta, assuming that we still are looking at a Book of the Dead meta for mages, could struggle. The Des highlighted it perfectly. Not a whole lot of CC on that god. It's all damage, and if all you have is damage, how are you going to work through an entire HP bar and then another one through a health shield, potentially an alternate timeline? If we start to see those get picked up, we won't this game, but I think that Kleena is in a very interesting state right now.
Kiermi over to the solo lane as Bevy Monster down beneath half HP. But it looks like the Camazotz we'll be just fine. They'll head back, pick up the blue buff. And so much of this Captainoti fan club team, Myth, and what they did so well during their run during the SEC playoffs. Center around this guy right here, Vaporish Coast. He's the one who's low on the left side of the map on the Heimdall. But it feels like it's always just a matter of time before this Captainoti fan club team is able to find a play centered around their carry. And I think Heimdall, one of his strongest picks.
Yeah, generally Vaporish Coast is very much trusted by his team to just be left behind. Expect Calvin to rotate out eventually and just about never come back as an attempted purple buff invade is unsuccessful here. Calvin should be able to walk his way out, but in going for that invade allows Vaporish Coast to get the solo farm of his own. So once these hunters are left alone, it's up to Wowie to kind of hold back that late game win condition of the Captainoti fan club. I'm pretty excited to see these two match up against each other. It's just a matchup you don't get to see very often. EU versus NA, Wowie, the historied SPL player, Vaporish Coast, the Penta kid from the console league. Both of them have very aggressive laning style of play. I'm excited to see them butt heads.
And you wonder how the pressure is going to catch up with these two teams as this set goes on. Remember, it's been a full year of SCC and SOC play for these squads respectively. All trying to get to this point right here to give yourself a chance at playing in the main bracket of the Smite World Championships. It's a long week ahead. We got a Tuesday through Sunday this week. 2 best-of-5s a day of Smite action, and all starts with a big matchup here. And these two teams, pretty slow to start off. And Myth, you wonder then how the clashing of the minds, the two metas that we saw form in the SEC and the SOC will start to play out throughout this weekend. You get an NA team up against an EU team. In NA, we're so used to watching the SEC teams just kind of run it down, play aggressive from minute one. The EU teams much more apt to slowing the game down, setting the stage for team fights later on. It should be an interesting melding of the minds as far as two very unique metas fighting it out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this one pans out. WINNERDOGS, I believe, are going to look to get aggressive very shortly, especially around the mid 3v3. Utilize BennyQ to try and net some red buff invades, or even potentially start to work your way towards the speed buff of Captainoti Fan Club. Whereas Captainoti Fan Club, I think, generally can just wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think they can as well. And so Captainoti Fan Club needs a little scaling to get it done. You can already see Gunter, he'll opt for the Book of Thoth with his first item. And so you expect Myth, I think you highlighted it earlier on, Book of the Dead. Though receiving some slight changes in 8.12, still probably in a pretty strong spot. Gunter on the Tiamat will feel tanky enough as the game goes on. You have to wonder, though, around the mid lane, you talked about how Chalk can be kind of that center of pressure for your team. Now that you're starting to get some of that scaling going, Book of Thoth is there for Gunter. Do you think that window is starting to close for BennyQ to have that big impact, or does that carry on a little bit further here beyond 5-10 minutes?
Chalk's late game scaling is a point of contention amongst the top tier players in Smite.
Here's the good news. You got a soapbox right now, and nobody's going to argue against you. So.
I suppose so. What I say is law. No, that's not the case. Chalk, I think personally, has very strong late game team fight scaling. His presence in the team fight is so hard to ignore. Chalk's ultimate can win or lose team fights on its own. He's got great space control, using the axe as a toss out and then just using the rainwaters to immediately slow down an entire area. Very hard to play around in these neutral objective pits. But damage scaling and survivability up against a Tiamat who gets damage mitigation as well as a health shield from Book of the Dead, I think might just do the majority of what Chalk is looking to better in the late game. You've got the same ability to leap in. You've also got a knock up on Tiamat, CC immunity in the quadrupedal stance. Damage output obviously going to be much higher just by nature of being a mage. And Tiamat also has the added utility of just split pushing lanes by dropping lizards there. Whereas Chalk, it's all in. He goes in with the ultimate. He's either finding a priority target and setting up for his team, or even potentially killing them on his own, or he's going in and allowing somebody to walk out, and you've immediately lost all of your team fight presence.
Tiamat, of course, a little more tried and true in the mid lane. I don't even know if Chalk is tried and true in the solo lane throughout this year. Chalk has not been seen hardly at all, but of course it's going to be the WINNERDOGS showing us that look. It was what? Sun Wukong mid throughout the SEC playoffs that we saw, and it was the WINNERDOGS who are happy to play it. BennyQ does not shy away from these styles of picks. 7 minutes in, and and essentially nothing separating these two teams. 300 gold is just about it for the Captainoti fan club. The Greater Scorpion on the left side dropped down just a bit ago, and that means Gold Fury opened up. So can you find some pressure on the left side of the map? Rapio might think so as the Osiris makes his way left. He's got Blink as his first relic. Bit of a brawl in the solo lane here, Bevy still low, but you got Sustain on the Camazotz to hopefully keep him safe and sound in lane. And I think that's a good place to start to turn our eyes here, Miff. When you get these slower paced games earlier on, both teams seemingly happy with just kind of chilling, farming things up. You got to look at both junglers, Kiermi on the Kleena and Rapio over here on this Osiris, and maybe where their power curves start to stand out.
Rapio has hit his power curve, by the way. He's
It's
an early game Osiris with Crusher already. If he's connecting Sickle, he's probably taken out about 50% of anybody's HP bar. The same can be said of Kiermi, but it's going to take a little bit longer. I think maybe a little bit more so interesting is going to be this neutral objective. The Gold Fury, now that it is an option, is a pretty viable option, specifically for WINNERDOGS. Between Kiermi's ultimates as well as Gamma's ultimate, they're shredding objectives without the assistance of just about anyone else. I think as long as Ganesh and Kleena are together, Gold Fury, Pyromancer, both very viable options.
And that's because of Dharmic Pillars, the hardest
Highest,
thing.
yeah, it hits hard. Just the
Actually,
hardest.
wasn't there some debate over that recently? Didn't we talk?
So technically a fully channeled Tremors will out-damage Ganesh's ultimate. But that's, like, who's doing
Right,
that?
but the asterisk is that it's every tick of the Tremors has to hit, right?
But also every single tick of Ganesh's.
Right. I guess for the sake of argument, it's effectively saying the same thing. If everything hits, what does the most damage in the game? Maybe it's Tremor. Maybe it's Tremors. That's a big silence onto Vaporish Coast. Good damage onto Coast as the Heimdall will have to disengage. Stun, no good because Calvin countered it out with the ult, but Kleena's here. And Kiermi's in the wall. Out of the wall he goes. As Calvin being chased down and gunned down, WINNERDOGS find themselves first blood.
The damage output from Kiermi as well as that silence made it so hard for Calvin to escape that situation, even through all of his defenses. Bevy Monster similarly in some trouble here. Should just be fine. He's been holding on to his ult the entire game. He's been living at 10% HP. The same cannot be said of the other side. WINNERDOGS find first blood and finally pull the gold in their favor.
Yeah, it's Kiermi on the Kleena. That's able to grab a little bit of that extra gold. You wondered if there might be an immediate reply to the Gold Fury, but enough of those ultimates down. The shred that we talked about, largely missing, as all of it went into to Calvin over on the Sylvanas. Not unused to some pressure on the left side is this Captainoti fan club team. A lot of pressure usually finds its way onto Vaporish Coast to just try to slow down the curve of the Heimdall as the game goes on. And you wonder if, you get sort of this delay of time between the Phase 3 playoffs, between the SEC playoffs, how do builds, things like that start to change. Looks like both hunters agreeing, and even one of the junglers, that Crusher, still in that Mace Tree, very, very good to start off with.
Yeah, it's just so hard to argue against Crusher as a stat stick. You get attack speed, you get penetration, power, literally everything you want, additional damage on your abilities as BennyQ. Showing off some of that healing scaling. Yeah, it just threw all that damage. That was a fully channeled Tiamat first ability. Had Calvin connected the pool, likely would have been a little bit more damage, but I'm not sure that BennyQ was really ever in any danger there. And speaking of BennyQ, having ticked over to level 12, he now has Blink and Beads, as well as the Jotun's Wrath on top of his Transcendence. So it's nearly max CDR, great damage output at this point, as well as an offensive relic to allow you to utilize that ultimate aggressively. I said earlier I want to see more from the WINNERDOGS mid 3v3, specifically this chalk through mid. Now's the time to play around it. This is about one of the strongest phases of the game for him.
Yep. Gunter's going to be hard to kill, though. You've gone fully stacked Book of Thoth into Breastplate of Valor, so you're going to get extra boost from the mana on that item, as well as just being more difficult to kill. And I suppose, that's what you open yourself up to if you're the WINNERDOGS. You stick this chalk mid. Makes an easy decision for Gunter to go Breastplate of Valor after the Book of Thoth. How about this?
Is that allowed?
Coast, I am walking towards 3 members of the WINNERDOGS and feeling just fine about it. Are you thinking twice, though? He's blocked out from the crystals, and that's a big play from Gamma, forcing the ultimate out from Coast. Wowie, able to find the first kill in this engagement. It's Gunter running for the hills, but here comes the Whirlpool. And it's on the back end of this fight that Wowie will hit the double.
I can't believe Rapio didn't decide to block a single auto attack there. Rapio walking hand in hand with his teammate and says, hey, yo, Gunter, just don't drop low next time. This opens up the door for the Gold Fury, and there's that shred we were talking about. Maybe not the exact facets that we were talking about, but certainly the damage is there. And the WINNERDOGS have blown the doors open on this game. All off the back of Vaporish Coast trying to get aggressive on his own in a 1v3. His team backs him up, and they're the ones that pay the iron price.
It looked all right there for a second, and then Gamma immediately turns it around and keeps Coast away from that Bifrost. Eventually the Heimdall gets out, but it's the price of the mid laner and the support for the Captainoti fan club, as well as the Gold Fury on the other end. So a couple thousand gold now. The WINNERDOGS are ahead, and that's always the threat with this WINNERDOGS team. Even in the SEC playoffs, this was a team that played this type of game where, you know, you talk about NA and the fast-paced, knockdown, drag-out style of game. But the WINNERDOGS definitely did not shy away from a slower first 10 minutes. Just get your feet underneath yourselves and then really start to press down on the gas. So it's these next, like, 5 minutes, Miff, right, where it feels like this game could just start to spiral, just could get out of control if the WINNERDOGS are able to keep up that pace.
And I think the pace is likely going to lead them towards the Pyromancer very shortly. Worth noting, though, we've got a couple of interesting builds on the side of CAPTAINOTI fan club. It's a shifter shield in the second slot for Rapio out of the jungle, getting a slight bit of bruiserness, but generally it's a very large power infusion as long as you're high on the HP. And as well as that, it's also Bevy Monster going for damage out of the Soul Lane. It's a Transcendence in his second slot. So the front line of CAPTAINOTI fan club, as of right now, I would argue is pretty severely lacking in tankiness. So you don't really have a traditional warrior through the Soul Lane. Rapio has gone for not the highest damage output build through the jungle. So it's a very interesting style I'm expecting the Order team to bring to these team fights, in that it's probably just dive and you're hoping that your dive kills pretty quick.
That's a small moment, but spamming the VGS there from Heimdall is just a very Vaporish Coast thing to do from what I'm gathered. Just walk down Wowie despite a 1 level, 2 kill, 1 assist lead for the Charybdis over in the dual lane. You're still feeling fine. So that's still where a question mark has to be for the WINNERDOGS. Are you going to be able to keep down Coast in his playmaking style as this game goes on? He's feeling comfortable in the way that he is. Could be difficult, but needs to think twice about the engagements he wants to take, especially when the numbers don't lie. And that means Wowie is in the lead. There's a pull in onto Kirmi, but both actives get used. And now the jungler walking out and away. Gunter jumps in. He's plenty tanky enough to take this fight, but doesn't quite have the damage on the other end of it. BennyQ dealing a decent bit back, and this mid lane scrap will end with no kills.
And BennyQ is full HP yet again, by the way. That third ability topping him off. Kirmi not nearly as lucky, is forced to retreat back into the jungle, but it still is the WINNERDOGS getting aggressive on this tower line.
God, both of these supports just exchanging CC onto one another, onto the mid laners, and yet again, we will walk away. And everything will be just fine. Blink and Bead still there for BennyQ, so neither of the actives used over there in the mid lane. Gamma did use the med in that fight, and Calvin on the other side did use the sprint. So some actives exchanged. Kirmi without the Aegis as well, and you know, those are the lines you have to look at in a fight that ends up with no kills. Bevymonsta somehow, Miff, has this 1 level, now mitigated down to no levels, lead over in the solo lane. It just feels like Aquarius has had this consistent pressure pushed in. WINNERDOGS haven't put much pressure on the back end of that, though, here on the right side of the map. They've just left Aquarius open to his own devices to keep the pressure on to this Camazotz. Pyromancer pulled by the WINNERDOGS, but the CAPTAINOTI fan club are here. They might have something to say about it. Won't be able to close the gap on the objective unless Bevymonsta takes it away. He will not. WINNERDOGS get the Pyro. As long as BennyQ survives, we'll get out unscathed. That's a 3-man ultimate from the Chalk. And that silence is long. Dharmic Pillars go down from Gamma, and now it's a retreat, but can Calvin make it to the hills? The WINNERDOGS chasing down the Sylvanas over in the mid lane, and the range just isn't there.
Rapio still sitting in the front line, does find the stun onto Gamma, followed up yet again by a good deal of damage, but Gamma should be able to walk out of there. Not much left for the WINNERDOGS to fight over here. They've already taken the objective, so might as well reset, spend up all that gold, and get ready for the Primal Fury on the respawn. We saw BennyQ's plan throughout the entire that team fight was create space. The second the Pyromancer was pulled out, BennyQ teleports into 2 members of the CAPTAINOTI fan club, essentially in the mid lane, and says, you're going to have to get through me if you want to put up a defense, or pray that Bevymonsta can do it on his own. And by nature of Camazotz, not really the greatest steal potential. All you have to do is stand between him and the objective, both Vampiric Bats and Screech, very easily to stop in that manner. So CAPTAINOTI fan club routed just by not getting to the objective quick enough. And this does open up the door yet again for the WINNERDOGS to push their lead. Primal Fury spawning very shortly, and all that burn that was used on the Pyromancer, well, it's just about back up.
Well, the good news is for the Captainoti fan club, remember the big spike here in this game was kills plus Gold Fury about 10 minutes in. Hasn't gotten much worse from that point on. It was right around 2,000 gold. 2.3K is where the gold stands now. So under all the pressure that we have seen from that 10-minute on mark, it has not gotten worse by a large degree for this Captainoti fan club team. Big power spike hit for Gunter. Book of the Dead finished off, and it's the Captainoti fan club that are starting out the Primal Fury, and they're doing it quickly. Benny Q in range, ultimate down, and WINNERDOGS take away the Primal Fury, and it is a huge engage on the end of this fight. Calvin and Gunter, they are disengaging, and the health bars are gone for the Captainoti fan club. You cannot participate in this fight any further. And the WINNERDOGS desperately trying to capitalize on a kill, all yellow and red across the left side of your screen.
Defensive ultimate by Vaporish Coast does net him his survival in that engagement, but it's the WINNERDOGS who walk away with the objective to their name. They push their gold lead even further, and in sending every single member of Captainoti fan club back to base, could open the door to opening the map. The tier 1 mid tower should be the first target, and it will be targeted out by 3 members of the WINNERDOGS. Defense has been established by Captainoti fan club. 3 members here in return.
At least you get some sustain in through the Captainoti fan club. You can reset, but I don't think we're putting up much of a fight over here on the left. As Coast finally overstayed. The Bifrost doesn't send him that far. Nearly wins the trade against Kirmi. And that is vintage Coast trying to turn around a play like that. Maybe one auto crit away from getting the turnaround kill onto Kirmi. You would love that right now if you're the Heimdall. Comes up just empty-handed on that engage, though. It is a 2-level lead now built up, though, for Wowie. Just through the ebbs and flows of this game, the Charybdis has been able to pull pretty far ahead. So 20 minutes in, gold lead really starting to balloon up, and the WINNERDOGS feel like they're in control.
Man, had Vaporish Coast just not crit with that last auto attack, Aussie proc, by the way, he just dies. He dies to the damage from Kirmi, so very lucky in that small engagement, as Dharmic Pillars are used to attempt to steal away the Greater Scorpion. Unsuccessful this time is Gamma, but there's not much to fight over at this point in the game. I'm sure that had he held on to that ultimate, could have put some threat towards the Fire Giant, likely now that the WINNERDOGS just wait for that cooldown before they look at the largest neutral objective on the map. I think it's very interesting the dichotomy between these two hunters that we've seen in the last 20 minutes. Wowie has played a very passive style. He said, I'm going to sit in my tower line. I'll let Vaporish Coast play wherever he wants. It doesn't super matter to me. I know that eventually Kirmi's going to rotate over, or Gamma can rotate, and we'll win the team fights there. Whereas Vaporish Coast has almost been going for these individual hero-style play. Walks into 3 members on his own. Walks up to the tier 1 tower line. Still there. 20 minutes into the game, Kirmi makes the rotation over towards the duo yet again. Was not able to force much out from Vaporish Coast. But it just goes to show that the Captainoti fan club, and specifically Coast, he's not willing to change his style.
No.
He's not too concerned with what the WINNERDOGS are doing now. He's saying, I'm good with my mechanics. I'm going to land my auto attacks. I'm playing a relatively safe hunter, so I'm going to utilize that for aggression. Whereas Wowie, still 2 levels up, I don't think he's left his tower.
No, and that's not surprising, right, for Coast, and that's sort of your point, is that that's just what Coast does. I mean, if Coast were not walking at 3 players of the WINNERDOGS, I'd wonder what was up and if this is going to be a difficult best-of-5 set for the Captainoti fan club and the rest of the team. Pyromancer about to respawn. This is the juggling that the WINNERDOGS have done so far this game. Fury over to Pyro, now back to Fury, and ideally back to Pyro here in a moment's time. And if you're a WINNERDOGS fan, this is the clean-cut shot calling that you're excited to see already in game number 1. Just a clean juggling of these objectives, forcing fights on the back end if they are there, and not feeling dissuaded from continuing to put pressure here on this game. And so the Pyromancer will fall down quietly. And the Captainoti fan club, Myth, not feeling comfortable showing up for even these small objectives.
Not much to fight over on the Pyromancer. Had it been the Giant, you could expect Captainoti fan club to rear their heads, but that's not the highest reward play if you're able to steal away the Pyro or take a fight there, especially with the deficit that they're playing into right now. But did you see the damage output on the Pyro? That was just Kirmi, by the way. That was just Kleena going for that objective.
I almost didn't see it.
Yeah, well, it burned that quickly. I think WINNERDOGS might be missing an opportunity. If I'm the shot caller for this team, if I'm the coach right now, I'm saying, let's just go to Fire Giant.
If you're the shot caller for this team, you're not
they're
playing
not here.
today.
They're not here.
You're not playing. No, jokes aside, you might have a point there, Myth. I mean, you're so far ahead. These fights have gone so handily your way. that may be a Fire Giant shortly. I mean, because a 22-minute Fire Giant is far from far-fetched. I mean, we're 15 minutes, we're starting to scratch our heads a little bit, but you're right in that wheelhouse right now if you're the WINNERDOGS. And it just feels like, from what I've seen from BennyQ at least, it's the grouping of the Captainoti fan club punished by big ultimates from BennyQ on a couple different occasions. That silence feels, just purely by feeling, just feels like it lasts so long if Chalk is able to get some good value out of it. And so you're going to have to get an answer somewhere if you're the Captainoti fan club. Caduceus shield into Berserker shield after early straight damage from BennyQ, so maybe playing both sides of the coin. And hey, Myth, maybe you are shot calling for this WINNERDOGS team. The Fire Giant is being shredded. Bevy Monster is back, but the silence completely slows everything down. WINNERDOGS get the FG. One more bat out of Hell Swoop. Kept things interesting there, but the WINNERDOGS make the call and now can chase down an escapeless solo laner.
Bevy Monster in some trouble, will fall down. Kirmi, credit for the kill this time around, and the WINNERDOGS well executed. Not only was it phenomenal burn, but yet again it's BennyQ creating infinite space. He channels his ultimate. Nobody from Captainoti fan club is willing to walk through it. Rightfully so. Had they been kind of caught out by it, likely would have just fallen down. And now the WINNERDOGS with Fire Giant on 5 and only 4 members of the Order team standing between them and a couple more objectives, work their way over towards this Gold Fury. Calvin, just not sure it's worth your time to try and steal this one away.
This is one of those games where, if you just tune in, you see a massive gold lead, so you know the WINNERDOGS are far and away ahead. But you look at the kills, you're saying it's 4-0. The WINNERDOGS just kind of listing through this game. That's been anything but. I mean, the objectives effectively on cooldown have been taken down by the WINNERDOGS every single respawn. I mentioned it before, but it's Fury to Pyro to Fury to Fire Giant, now back to Fury. Every single neutral objective has been secured by the WINNERDOGS. And outside of that first Fury, there hasn't been much pushback from the Captainoti fan club. So now we're starting to spiral our way into what we're assuming is going to be a Phoenix Siege here shortly. And we just haven't seen enough from the Captainoti fan club, Myth. I don't know if we're feeling confident in their ability to turn around a game this far down, and they haven't even gotten a kill on board yet.
But their late game scaling, just evaluating the team composition, is relatively strong. Rapio has now got very good damage output with a serrated edge pickup. Bevy Monster might not be a tank. He literally isn't. It's essentially just Caduceus and Blackthorn for utility. So your soul laner is essentially just another jungler at this point. So if Captainoti fan club are just able to close gap onto a couple of key targets, they could trust Gunter to survive in the backline on his own with Book of the Dead. We'll see if Rapio can take this 1v1. Seems like Kirmi just not willing to give it over.
Yeah, but that's 2 for 1. WINNERDOGS feeling fine now about this Phoenix Siege on left. They've just got the numbers. Vaporish Coast has to use both actives into the Bifrost. He goes. That'll keep the Heimdall on the map. But can that keep the Phoenix on the map? Some good jukes out from Calvin. Will sustain up the Sylvanas. And the left side Phoenix ends up falling down. And Kirmi ends up surviving that entire time as well. So Kirmi effectively wasting the time of a couple members of the Captainoti fan club. And that opens up a siege successfully on the left for the WINNERDOGS.
Kirmi didn't even have to use relics, man. It was a free disengage for him, and it took both Bevy Monster and Rapio to try and zone him out of that team fight. That's a not worthwhile trade.
Knock up on to Calvin as Gamma and Aquarius are rooted in place. Bevy Monster's alone in the back of this fight here. Is this the fight that the Captainoti fan club are looking for? Because this is what you gotta look out for. The re-engage is here, and it is swift. And the WINNERDOGS will run down the Captainoti fan club. There is already a Phoenix gone. And I don't think the WINNERDOGS are all that concerned about those that are left from the Captainoti fan club. Half HP on a few members, though. That's what you gotta look out for if you're the WINNERDOGS here. But if you're able to chase out these last few, could be looking at curtains 26 minutes in.
Rapio just doing his best to buy a little bit of time, and he has dragged a couple of members away all the way towards the Pyromancer, but I think you're right to say that the WINNERDOGS don't need to concern themselves with objectives right now. Maybe a mid-Phoenix, but after that, you've got so much time to play with. 20 seconds on the nearest respawn. Might as well walk into the Titan.
WINNERDOGS will walk into the Titan room. 15 seconds left on Calvin, but Bevy Monster and Rapio a little bit further away. Coast, it's time for some of that magic in game number 1. But that is just not a trick he's going to be pulling out of the sleeve this game. WINNERDOGS blank the Captainoti fan club. And they'll take game 1 in this best of 5.
But it wasn't like a one-sided blanking. Okay, well, I mean, that's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? A little bit. Yeah, sure, it was 7-0. But it's not as if every second of this game was controlled by the WINNERDOGS. There were brief moments where it was dead even. The first 11 or so minutes, we didn't see any action. It was just a couple of misplays, a couple of miscommunications, specifically kind of flashback into the 1v3 that Vaporish Coast decided to take, and it cost 2 of his teammates their lives. Outside of that, there really wasn't much action throughout the early, so I think as long as Captain Oti Fan Club keep their heads on their shoulders, they should just be fine going forward.
Benny Q's world, and we're all just living in it here. Another Warrior mid, and this time it works out. WINNERDOGS take game 1 of this best of 5. Time for the Captain Oti Fan Club to bounce back in game 2. We'll be right back.
I want to take off my jacket for this one.
Dude, this. No, I know he was supposed to take you out last weekend, but he got busy.
Hello and welcome back to the Smite World Championship placements rounds. Captain Odie Fan Club falls down in game number 1 to a rather unorthodox kind of composition. I say that it was an unorthodox mid laner out of Benny Q and the WINNERDOGS. They come up in game number 1. And Gormizer, before we even talk about that, it's the Smite World Championship placements week, right? Which means that Smite World Championships is still to come.
Yep.
And what better thing to get to celebrate the Smite World Championships than one of our bundles? Make sure to pick one of those up while you still have the opportunity to do so. Go to shop.hi-rezstudios.com and pick up your SWC Season 8 bundle. It comes with a jacket, a flag with all of the pros' signatures, a postcard with the new original art piece, and the digital loot pack, which includes Pittsburgh Knight Scylla, Divine Wind Gilgamesh, Elkin Cernanos, and Season 8 Morgan Le Fay. So 4 great skins, a nice jacket and a wall flag, a postcard with some cool artwork. All that and more can be yours. Shop.hi-rezstudios.com.
I got a story time for you.
Okay, go for it.
So, Season 7 hoodie. Got it last year.
Great.
Love it. Wear it around. I left it at my parents on Thanksgiving. Went to see them this weekend. Finally got it back. Very excited. My wife immediately takes the hoodie and says, I like this hoodie. I'm going to wear it now. And so I'm anxiously waiting the arrival of my Season 8 jacket so I can have something to wear again. I have no jackets at all.
None.
I have none.
That is your only jacket.
I have one.
Like a heavy jacket.
I have one 2012 German World Cup, very light jacket.
That was such
It's
a
not
long
great.
time ago. That was when the Shibalanke.
It's almost been 10 years. Man,
that was when the
old,
Shibalanke football skins came out at that point. Man, that makes me feel a little bit older. Let's get back into the games though. Captain Odie Fan Club and WINNERDOGS game number 1 went pretty handedly, I'd say, there to the WINNERDOGS. A very slow-paced early game gore. When it came to the team fights, it was hard to kill Captain Odie Fan Club. But it was also hard for Captain Odie Fan Club to really do any damage to the WINNERDOGS.
Yeah, so first off, we get the first game of placements, and there's 0 kills on the board for one team, which is not exactly the way you want to start things off. But, realistically, this would have been much higher than 7 kills had it not been for Captain Odie Fan Club's just survivability and tankiness. That being said, they could have gotten some kills had it not been for all of the tankiness. I mean, specifically, if you look at the mid lane matchup, I think we were talking about it. Benny Q has 1 to 2, tanky items or hybrid items in his build, but for the most part, is able to do a lot. But you've got a Ardio, you've got Ganesh, and you've got a Chalk on this team, all of which are going to scale pretty well. You've got good damage coming out of Aklina and good damage coming out of Charybdis. And you have an unfortunate build that I think is one that is really good when we're looking at Zeus, when we're looking at some of the immobile gods. But when you look at Tiamat and you look at that build, especially with how delayed, Book comes online 3rd, you get the Divine Ruin, you have virtually no pen available to yourself, hardly any damage, you're going to survive damn near anything that gets thrown your way, but good luck killing anybody, and I think that's, something to be said. You still put up 22k, you're doing a lot of damage as Gunter, but you're not going to be the guy finding the kills. You didn't really get to see Coast step up to that, a good couple of crits, but they never really got into a position where the fight felt overwhelmingly in their favor. The anti-heal that was coming from the Onks, things like that, as well as just the team fight from the WINNERDOGS, just seemed to overwhelm them too much early on, and despite having that survivability and being able to escape, they couldn't retaliate in time.
And, 22,000 damage out of Gunter. I think another thing to kind of point there is Rapio's lack thereof in damage, just shy of 9,000 on the jungler. So damage across the board, a little bit lacking here for Captain Odie Fan Club in game number 1. We did actually see on Twitter, though, Rapio did tweet out, 3 games, it's us, 4 if we're trolling. We'll see if that was their one little troll game, as they have to step it up now in game number 2. Picks and bans underway. And I'm curious if we'll see anything adjusted in the bans themselves, because Captain Odie Fan Club went with some of those bans. I think you're right to highlight kind of the meta of old, especially with the global anti-heal nerf coming in.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to double check it. Yeah, so Erlang Shin was nerfed. It was, again, slight nerf overall, and it was on 72 transformation, so maybe not exactly what everybody is the most worried about on this god, but it is still something that is surprising to me to have it be first ban both times. I know that WINNERDOGS can play it really well, and I know that setup that he can provide, especially in the middle of a team fight, is really big, but the fact that he is the number 1 for them, I was trying to figure out, is it going to be this? Aphrodite and Hell are also a little on the fence. They're both very, very good, and then capable hands are going to provide a lot, but you have to change something.
Bans the same across the board, except Captain Odie Fan Club this time will ban the Klina, so they're not going to let that one through. That leaves the Aphrodite that they banned in that 3rd slot open this time. And instead of going for this Camazotz first, which gave a little bit of ambiguity to their draft, we all thought, this is jungle, but then it opens up and ends up being solo lane. Instead, they're now going to go ahead and get a definitive frontliner out there, which may have been something that they were kind of lacking there in game number 1, Gormizer. Artio, that first pick, the WINNERDOGS are going to stick with what worked with them. They're going to just go ahead and lock Ganesh in.
And honestly, I kind of like the adaptation so far from Odie. You had a lot of damage that was coming from this Kleena, and you needed to deal with her very early on. Makes it really, really solid. You get the Artio, and like you said, not only a really good frontliner, but for the longest time, she was one of the most banned gods we had. Was that end of Phase 2, start of Phase 3? I mean, you couldn't see her because she was just so highly coveted. There was a point where I know, like, at least for like Leviathans is a good example. Hardcore was like 15-1 on this god, just absolutely insane. Had like a 7-something KDA or something ridiculous like that. I'd have to go double check all of it, but it was a really good performance for them. And I think this, especially accompanied by something like a Tiamat, especially with the damage that was able to come out, sets you up for a lot more success. But I see Ganesh Camazotz, and I think, well, you know what? I mean, yeah, you're taking the other guy's jungler, but you did really well with them already, so I trust it.
Well, it will be Tiamat and Ho Yi this time. Now, Gormars, I've never one to buy into superstition, though we did have a long streak where Zhang Kui was pretty much always losing. And in the SPL, we had, what was it, like a 1 and then 15 or 16 straight losses on a Ho Yi afterwards. That's not to say the same when it comes down to the SCC and the SOC teams. But I never really get a whole lot of confidence as much anymore whenever I see a Ho Yi locked in.
Yeah, so I'm going to... this is, and granted, this is not for the SCC and SOC, like you said. This is all SPL. 31 games this year of Ho Yi. He's won 8.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he only won 1 of those during, like, Phase 3.
And, like, yeah, in Phase 3, he was, like, 1-16 or something like that.
That's not
like,
good.
A lot of those are, like, Phase 1, realistically.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of Phase 2 there. But he has not been, let's just say successful. That's the nice way. He's not been doing a whole lot of good lately.
Now, it hasn't been too fun to be a Ho Yi, aside if you were Zapman and you got the one cool montage clip that we use a lot, which is just such a cool bounce kill over anything. But on the other side here, it is going to be Cupid locked in for the WINNERDOGS to round out their top 3, and then they'll go with a little bit of bans over towards the jungle. Putting a little bit of respect on Rapio's name, the 0 to hero, the pacifist play of Thanatos that worked out with them, got him nearly a pentakill. Well, WINNERDOGS, they're going to go ahead and ban that one away.
And I like this. Again, you notice that you have to have a jungler on the other side right now. And we know, admittedly, if you look at the last performance, you had mentioned the lack of damage coming from the Camazotz. There wasn't really a lot out of the jungle on the side of CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB. Try to limit anything you can. That's going to make sure that he stays stifled. I also think it's wild. And again, this is something that any other team, I'm ranting and raving about it, but it's Wowie, and we literally had highlights before this set of him playing Cupid. So it's still really cool, and I'm really excited to watch Cupid, but also it's Wowie, and Wowie's been playing for a long time, and he knows how to play Cupid, so it's something that I'm excited to be able to watch. Again, I think the biggest problem is going to just be your clear early on. Cupid's going to have it a little bit easier off, but you still have a Ganesh next to you. It's not going to be as wild and in control. If they go for like another Sylvanas or anything like that, then all power back over to CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, at least for the beginning of the phase, or lane.
Final bans here, CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB take away Cthulhu and Cerberus, so locking away some of that front line. On the other side, the WINNERDOGS will take one more shot at Rapio by banning the Hun Bats, and then a Sobek pickup here for the WINNERDOGS to throw that one over into the hands of Aquarius, who just, let's be real, Aquarius loves these real big, beefy, get-in-your-face Guardian solo lane picks.
And I have to give him a lot of credit because I think there was a period of time where Sobek, if Aquarius got Sobek in the SCC for an A, the game was done. He won every single one of them. And it was, you'd have some really, I will tell you, some really good performances early on into great late game performances, and some of the worst lane phase that you could ever, wish against your opponent, the Sobek. And then he still translated it into good team fight phases. So it's something that I think is going to be very profitable for him. Plus, now you have to look at their setup, right? You've got Dharmic Pillars, you've got the Ohm from Ganesh, you've got this Pluck that comes through. It's just going to be funneling people into Camazotz and Cupid easily.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Gore, this Fenrir, wasn't this the second god that Rapio got a quadra kill on during their run of SCC Circuit? I remember he got 2 of them.
Yeah, something like that.
Because he got one on Thanatos. I want to say it was Fenrir was the other, and then it was like a King Arthur that took the last kill or something like that. But now you lock in the Fenrir with a Xing Chen. A lot of CC on this composition for Captain Odie. But our biggest problem we had for them in game number 1 was their damage output. Do you think that this boosts up their damage output or maybe hinders some of the damage output, at least on the opposite side for the WINNERDOGS?
I Both, right? Because if you're thinking about it, well, Camazot's a lot of abilities up front, but you're still chasing with auto attacks. Cupid, a lot of abilities up front, still chasing with auto attacks. Xing Qin's going to be helpful up against that just because of what he's able to provide, and it makes me happy to see that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Fenrir, though, and Hu Yi, as well as the Tiamat, especially with the Tiamat, like, again, I was kind of harping on it, like, the build took a little while, and I still think that if you go this build, you're probably going to be doing a lot more surviving than killing. But with a Hu Yi and a Fenrir beside you, I think this Tiamat has a lot more potential than last game, especially with the 22k that we already saw put out. So this is going to at least level out some of the playing field.
Well, you said we'll get back to it. Well, let's
Oh,
go ahead.
yeah, we have to,
let's
don't
go
we?
ahead and jump right to it. If this is your first time watching the SCC, the SOC at all, this god is no surprise to the WINNERDOGS team. Anubis locked in for the final selection out of the WINNERDOGS. That one is undoubtedly going in the hands of BennyQ, though Benny usually saves that for when they're on like the winning game, like they're on like game 2. They already won game 1 of a best of 3 set. Curious to see that he pulls it out here in game number 2, but I mean, I guess they already got one win. Might as well see if you can get another here, Gore.
I guess, you know, when you look at it, if you think about it this way, right, you have an advantage here. If you lose this game and you're WINNERDOGS, it's not the end of the world for you, but you're maybe not as happy about it. But if you win this game, first off, you get to tack on another Anubis win for yourselves, but also you are then up to 0 in a best of 5, and you're feeling a lot more confident with the momentum coming behind you, being able to find the game number 3 and things like that. So this is maybe the safest place to pick it, I guess, outside of just straight up winning this game and having it, like you said, be the final winning game of a set. Either way, when you think about the damage output, again, look at all the setup. I actually think, especially with Book of the Dead, he's going to be chilling for a lot of this. There's still that period of the time before he gets those items online, before his safety is available, that he's still just an Anubis. And you can kill him right then and right there, and you got to do it a lot, because otherwise it's going to be BennyQ surviving a lot on an Anubis pick that he's really good at, and that is a recipe for disaster.
See, now that kind of begs up the question to me is, you know, we saw the book build last time out of Tiamat, and it's great at surviving a lot of damage really quickly because you get that book proc. Here's an extra like 40% health bar to get you through, which should work really well against the Anubis. He drops that, you know, 3 in the ultimate. You should just be dead. Book keeps you alive. But the one thing that just kind of kills Anubis and counters him is going anti-heal. Do you imagine maybe a switch up in the build or maybe an earlier Divine Ruin coming out of this Tiamat?
I know, what was it? We were talking about it. I wouldn't mind bumping the Breastplate of Valor back. I guess if you're going to go Thoth, if you're going to go Book of the Dead on the Tiamat, then I'd probably slot in Divine Ruin, then go for Breastplate. It just depends, I guess, on how many ganks are getting thrown your way and how much damage you want to do. I honestly wouldn't even mind dropping Thoth, potentially just going for the Divine Ruin, then maybe Breastplate, then Book of the Dead. It's weird because you want the synergy for Book of the Dead. It's definitely going to be a juggle for him. But I think ultimately you're going to want it earlier on, right? I mean, a lot of the things we were talking about, the Tiamat, the damage came later on. It was, you know, huge 4-man, 5-man abilities that are able to get a lot of that done and stack the damage up. You didn't have it early, and BennyQ was under no pressure virtually the entire game. You're going to need that now against the Anubis.
Well, can CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB get a bounce back here in game number 2 up against the WINNERDOGS? Let's delay no further and jump right in.
WINNERDOGS feeling good, obviously, after game number 1. And they'll throw some more twists at us going into game 2. CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, change some stuff up here, Miff, keep some stuff the same. Gunter on the Tiamat will remain the same. Looks like a different build, though. That might be worth digging into here in a little bit. Not immediately going into the Book of Thoth, apparently, on the Tiamat this time around. But I think Rapio out of the jungle, Miff, could be a great place to start here, especially when you consider the mid laner that he's going up against. Beads, of course, for BennyQ, you need it. Could be a great target for Rapio early in this game. Jump into that mid lane and get some pressure going.
Could be, but the DPS war between a Fenrir and Anubis pre-5 is pretty tight-knit. I think as long as BennyQ is channeling his abilities properly, he might legitimately just win the 1v1 up against Fenrir. So Rapio going to have to play cognizant around that, and it's going to be harder for Rapio to close that gap, having been forced to go towards that beads early on. I think maybe an even better target is Cure Me. That guy doesn't have beads. Ragnarok, as long as you're able to channel it, could just stop him.
Great point, maybe the solo lane. Level 2 for Rapio, jumping onto Aquarius, who will walk out just fine. Blink down for the Sobek. And this is something we saw a lot of, Miff, for a while here in Season 8 was Sobek solo. We still do see it. This is far away from a wild pick for Aquarius. But these Guardian solo laners still providing some value as the season has rolled on here. And the Sobek great at finding that engage, finding that disruption as the game goes on.
Yeah, he is, especially against gods like Tiamat, especially in that bipedal stance as well. Going to be very easy for Aquarius to try and displace there, as well as just the peel potential that he's got for his squad. I don't think Rapio is going to be able to channel Brutalize at any portion of the game in the late game team fight as long as Aquarius is around, or even Gamma. Benny Q also has some pretty good ways to cancel out that ability, so going to have to play very wisely around that. We might even see him, Rapio that is, decide to max out that Seething Howl before he goes towards the Brutalize. Likely going to be unchained in that first slot considering how much CC WINNERDOGS have. I'm expecting Captain OD Fan Club to try and establish a slightly quicker pace than what we saw in Game 1. That said, the WINNERDOGS seem to be playing pretty happily in this passive state, just farming up each of their lanes, very similarly to what we saw in Game 1 as well. Remember, it's both teams that kind of just rested on their laurels for the first 10 or so minutes.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 10 minutes. And it was really just that one Fury fight that felt like spiraled game number 1 out of control. And so, if this pace continues, that's where you're going to have to look yet again, especially with similar picks, or at least for the WINNERDOGS in support. Gamma on the Ganesh could provide some value, but he's not on the right side of the map, and the WINNERDOGS probably wish he was right about now. Rapio plus Bevy Monster equals blue buff invade. But it looks like Aquarius and Kirmi will be just fine and head on out of that one. And Aquarius able to pick up the blue buff. But you can already see the mindset here of the Captain OD Fan Club, especially Rapio. Ardio plus Fenrir might be able to find you some good value on the right side of the map. Calvin jumps in, though, and will jump out with the last bit of mana.
I wonder had Rapio pre-channeled the beads if he would have just been able to finish off Kirmi, but he was pulled off immediately by Aquarius, which is exactly what we were expecting from this Sobek versus Fenrir matchup. Which is why I'm surprised to see Rapio put so much emphasis on that lane, essentially losing out an entire ability every single time Aquarius is in the team fight. That's the third, I believe, gank attempt we've seen from Rapio on the right-hand side. You'd expect him to want to try and fight this immobile mid-mage a little bit earlier on, especially before he's able to pick up a little bit more of that lifesteal. Benny Q very quickly starting to approach that critical lifesteal point where you either kill him or he's full HP off of a wave.
Yep. Now, Myth, on the other side of the map, I think worthwhile, as Kirmi makes his way left, to have a conversation around the Ho Yi, as Vaporishko spots out the WINNERDOGS jungler. And so the duo lane, the Captain OD Fan Club will play a little bit more safe. Ho Yi, what a year Ho Yi's had, huh? I mean, plenty of picks, but not a lot of wins. I mean, feels like kind of that low-down pocket pick that every once in a while you'll see get locked in. Doesn't excite you, doesn't necessarily make you sad. But Mythid has not been doing a whole lot of winning. Maybe in this type of situation, Coast could make a difference.
Whoa!
Oh, it's perfect. The combo of both of the ultimates over in the duo lane forces the jump out of Vaporish Coast. And Coast will say he's happy that he's alive, but that's nearly a kill for the WINNERDOGS.
Yeah, I mean, Coast wanted to hold on to his beads throughout that entire fight. He says, all right, look, I'm not going to beads unless I get literally everything out of the WINNERDOGS. Had Gamma not dropped Dharmic Pillars, I'm pretty sure Coast just holds on to that relic, but got to give him some credit. Coast, that is, on his just quick reaction time. The second that Gamma utilizes that ult, Coast says, whoop, I don't live that anymore, and immediately pops his beads and gets out.
And Coast does not have his beads, does have the jump to get out, though. Rapio over to the left. Kirmi has Bat Out of Hell. Brutalize in onto the Camazot's Bat Out of Hell channeled. And Ragnarok no good, but that's some good damage down from Vaporish Coast, who'll drop the Suns in this pivotal choke point out of the jungle. Benny Q rotating from mid, looking for that one important tether. A silence onto Coast. It will time out and the jump will be there, and so big rotation in from everyone but the solo laners. And a purple buff invade successfully is what ends up being the difference maker for the WINNERDOGS.
If this were 2 or 3 patches ago before Camazot's got that buff to the amount of time it takes to get into the air with Bat Out of Hell, Kirmi's just dead to the Ragnarok from Rapio. Fortunately, we're playing on 8.12, so Kirmi gets to live that engagement just yet again, and maybe Gunter in a little bit of trouble in mid. Takes some poke, but it's just Benny Q healing back up.
Pythax piece for Benny Q. We'll start off the mid lane build, and there is indeed a pivot Myth out of the mid lane. Gunter, remember it was what, Book of Thoth into Breastplate of Valor, into Book of the Dead. In game 1, maybe made more sense. You were going up against the Chalk. The Breastplate of Valor synergized very well for Gunter. But a different look here. Chronos Pendant, little additional CDR. Maybe treats his team out better.
And worth noting that the OG mage items, specifically the Pen Tree, have received some pretty significant buffs as Calvin dropped incredibly low, hits every tick. Benny Q just puts him down.
He just walks at him. That is a 2v1 by all standards. And Benny Q just realizes the burst damage is gone from Gunter. And he walks forward and with just Pythag's piece, which is a great item, is able to put down Calvin for first blood. And that is terrifying. Now you've gotten tier 2 item work into that lifesteal tree. And suddenly this Anubis starting to look a little bit more worrisome with a solo first blood and a 1v2 in the mid lane. And we saw massive burst damage on the left side of the map when Gamma plus Wowie put all that damage on the coast. I didn't expect all of that to pour into Calvin and grab the kill, and apparently Calvin didn't either. Beads used by Rapio here. Stun does not connect, but Ragnarok sure does. Dharmic Pillars are down, and the silence is in on the other end, and Kirmi dropped in place and grabs the kill. Bad to worse for the Captainoti fan club 7 minutes in.
Bevy Monster still hovering nearby. Kirmi's low HP and has the ultimate available, so should be able to walk out the moment that he chooses to do so. Aquarius has got Bevy Monster on his heels, but not too concerned with it. That is another tough engagement for Rapio. You think he's going to feel pretty good about it, able to pick up Kirmi, but the silence from Gamma just chases him out, and from there, pretty easy kill to pick up.
WINNERDOGS are starting to build up some of that gold lead. It's almost the exact same as what we saw in Game 1 now, as far as where the gold lead is at this point in the game. It was 10 minutes in, about 1,000 gold in the lead were the WINNERDOGS as the team rotated over to that Fury. We're like 8 minutes in, might see a Fury rotation in the next couple of minutes, right around that same mark. And so if the WINNERDOGS are able to follow that same script, you're hoping not if you're a Captainoti fan club fan, you could be looking at a similar story here in game number 2. The answer then has to be for this Anubis. Back-to-back games now, BennyQ has played these disruption mid laners, and with just one kill already setting the stage for a successful game.
But it's going to be a distinctively different style from BennyQ. Calvin jumping in aggressively yet again. He does have Rapio here. It's a good fight.
And BennyQ with the ultimate sends a couple members of the Captainoti fan club running, and that will buy time. The Ragnarok used on the other end of the engagement, but Calvin left alone. Gamma pulled back into the fray, but he's happy to be there. Calvin whittled away by the WINNERDOGS in the 3rd kill of the game. Finds its way into the mid lane, 2 of them onto the Xingqian.
Man, Calvin is just struggling to find his opportunities to engage, even in finding a double pull. Gunter doesn't have the damage output to follow up just yet. He's not putting out similar numbers to BennyQ. And getting back to the conversation we were having around this Anubis, it's not that frontliner in the chalk that we saw last time around. BennyQ was very happy to just play the initiator role throughout the entirety of the game in Game 1. Now, he's the objective burner. Last time it was Kirmi and Gamma. Now it's going to be Benny and Gamma. So Kirmi going to have to act as frontliner around the Gold Fury and the Pyromancer. That said, with the WINNERDOGS picking up a similar draft, I'd argue it's slightly better at what they were doing. If they're able to close gap on Gold Fury, Dharmic Pillars plus Anubis ult is going to delete objectives.
I mean, we got 4 kills for the WINNERDOGS essentially that entire game. And it was just objective on neutral objectives on cooldown for the WINNERDOGS, and that built up a massive gold lead and a relatively easy end. And again, we're starting to follow a similar script. So once Dharmic Pillars back off of cooldown, maybe once those ultimates are back up, the WINNERDOGS start to rotate over to the Gold Fury side of the map. And an interesting build path for Wowie here, Mifflin. You know, the Hunter conversation we had in Game 1, both of the builds effectively mirrored. Anything but. As a far from traditional start for Wowie in his build, Titan's Bane. It's going to be the first item, 20% physical pen to start off the game, 10 minutes in.
And on first ability cast, another 20% added onto that as well. So on first Heart Bomb, Wowie's going to have 40% pen. But it's an interesting build path in that percent pen in the early game is just worse.
Right. Might not be as effective as it will be later in the game. Aquarius brutalized.
Jeez.
Looks like he'll survive. Bevy Monster's going tower diving. You got to get the kill to make this worth it. And he will not. He will die empty-handed. And now Rapio diving under the tower. Brutalized finally gets a kill on board for the first time this set for the Captainoti fan club. But you have lost 2 in the meantime. Kirmi on a killing spree. That is a desperation play to get something on board for the Captainoti fan club.
And desperation did not net them a whole lot here. Even in finding their first kill in the set, they come out behind on that trade. Kirmi very happy to have 2 kills to his name now as well. 3 total for the WINNERDOGS jungler. I was surprised to see BennyQ make the rotation over towards the right-hand side. Is able to steal away one of those back camps as well as the red buff now too. But you gotta think Anubis with a lead, an entire level, already has a Typhon's Fang, is just about as lifesteal stacked as you could hope at this point in the game. You've got Gamma with you as well. I'm pretty sure if the WINNERDOGS, the 2 members you see on the screen right now, walk over to the Gold Fury and press 4, and only 4, I think it dies.
I think you're right. Well, and it's such an interesting now play style that BennyQ is opting for in back-to-back games, where when you think of healing mid laners, you're thinking what? Probably Hell and Aphrodite 99% of the time, right? As far as what we've seen on a somewhat standard basis. Now in back-to-back games, BennyQ has still played a healing, whether self or team, style mid laner, but it's been far from standard. It's been the Chalk. Now it's the Anubis. And that forced heavy anti-heal in Game 1 from the CAPTAINOTIFANCLub. You have to imagine, given the pace of this game already and the pressure that BennyQ has built and the presence that BennyQ's got in the mid lane with 2 healing items, there's got to be more anti-heal piled on here for the CAPTAINOTIFANCLub. Divine Ruin for Gunter. Could be Divine Ruin pretty early on for Calvin as well.
It could be. I'm expecting potentially even Calvin to go for maybe an Ankh as well. Wowie's got some healing in the kit. Aquarius self-heals. Kirmi self-heals. BennyQ has got the lifesteal, so Ankh going to find some value there as well.
Right.
So there is the opportunity for that, but it's going to be a long time until we get to evaluate whether or not we're right in that guess, because Calvin's level 9. He's 2 levels down on Gamma and 3 away from that secondary relic
This
slot.
game's going to end before he hits level 12.
Oh, no.
We may never find out. Onto the Gold Fury go the WINNERDOGS. Dharmic Pillar down. WINNERDOGS secure the Fury. Calvin in, and he is in alone. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel spins him into the grave. Aegis, well timed for BennyQ as Gunter will jump in. Finally gets a kill onto the mid laner. Coast's Aegis times out. And unfortunately, it times out to the tune of a double kill from Wowie. And that is another example of one of these trades that the CAPTAINOTIFANCLub has found. Ragnarok out for Rapio. Bat out of Hell is there as well. Final swoop might be good. Beats there. Counter out the stun. And Kirby turns it around. But Gunter at least able to pick up 1 at the end of the fight. So you keep the kills closer to even. Still a winning trade for the WINNERDOGS.
Yeah, the objective goes the way of the Chaos team. And this was happening throughout the entirety of that team fight. We didn't get a chance to look at it, but Bevy Monster and Aquarius were tussling in the jungle, just fighting and vying for positioning around those back camps. We get a look at the charts here. It's 3,000 experience and gold now favoring the Chaos team.
How aggressive is a tussle
on
a spectrum of fighting?
Okay, well, what's a 10?
A 10 is
a kerfuffle?
A brawl.
A brawl, I see. And then a 1 is a kerfuffle.
1 is a kerfuffle. So what's a tussle on the...
It's probably 1 step over fisticuffs, I'd say.
Got it.
Yeah.
And a full-on Donnybrook is maybe just short
what?
of a Donnybrook.
I have no clue what that is.
That's it's like just a big like team fight. Like everyone... It's like a hockey thing. Everyone drops
Is that a
gloves.
hockey thing?
Yeah, everyone drops
So some
gloves.
dude named Donnie Brooks really liked fighting in the hockeys?
Yeah, he's a great boxer back in the 70s, Donnie Brooks.
Good lord.
Completely kidding, by the way. It could be.
Not a boxer, was a hockey player.
It's just a term.
Ah, I see.
I'm sure a guy named Donnie Brooks boxed or played hockey at some point, whether or not he has anything to do with the fight. TBD. At any rate, you're hoping there's a Donnie Brook at some point that gives CAPTAINOTIFANCLub a sneaky way back into this game.
Biased.
But you gotta, well, you hope for a competitive best-of-5 set. It was not competitive in Game 1. Slightly more competitive here in Game 2, but you're still seeing the same trend. And we haven't seen much from Coast yet, Miff. And you know, 1 game here and there, understandable. I don't expect that to continue for an entire best-of-5 set. That said, he has been 2 levels down, now 1. But it feels like Coast has been 2 levels down effectively both games that we've seen him playing in so far.
But it's not lack of trying from Coast.
It's not his fault necessarily.
Well, I mean, a little bit. The 1v3 in Game 1 still blows my mind that he's trying to take that fight. But he's been getting active on the map. Even in the last engagement that we saw around the Gold Fury, Vaporish Coast very nearly turns around the entirety of the fight with a double bounce that connects onto Kirmi. Had he hit Wowie, it would have likely just killed Wowie as well. But it's actually a dive on the left-hand side.
Oh, good. Fields of Love forces the beads out of Rapio, and then a stun on the Coast on the other end. 3 versus 2, by the way. And it's still the CAPTAINOTIFANCLub left running to the hills. Rapio, no ult. Calvin, no ult. Coast will hold on to his. Great value then. Down to the Fields of Love. Aegis needed by Gunter, but Kirmi is here. 4, 1, and 3 is the Camazotz bat out of Hell. We'll get this one done, and the dive is complete, and the WINNERDOGS will put down the mid laner for the first time this game. Decent power spike for Gunter, though, coming back from that kill. Soul Reaver completed. But there was just too much damage pressure there, Myth, for Gunter to survive through.
I like the idea to go towards Soul Reaver, though, from the Tiamat. It's going to help you out with your burst, I feel, a fair bit, and that's really the only way you're going to kill anybody from the WINNERDOGS, Kirmi, if he's able to survive the initial CC, goes into bat out of hell. If BennyQ survives the initial CC, he's got just about as much lifesteal as you need going forward. So Soul Reaver's passive doing a additional percentage of an HP bar means that you can likely finish off some of these kills off the initial engagement. CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB should likely try and play around that significant power spike, but it seems like it's been an active decision from the Order team to play around Vaporish Coast, as we saw in that 3-man dive on the left-hand side. Doesn't work out for them because Coast is already significantly behind 2 levels, as you highlighted earlier on. And now that Calvin has ticked over to level 12, we do get to look at that secondary relic slot. Meditation.
Nope.
He's healing a little bit.
So I was wrong in that the game didn't end before you hit level 12.
That is true.
17 minutes, that would have been a breakneck pace. But you're right, still not on. Divine Ruin is there. Maybe Calvin feeling like he's done his anti-heal job with picking up the Divine Ruin. Fury's about to respawn here, as the WINNERDOGS likely to group up around this big objective. And this is, I think, a pretty telling fight for the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB. Feels a lot worse and a lot riskier now that Coast doesn't have his beads anymore. Kirmi jumped on him. That's a lot of damage from Rapio. But hey, you've got some heart bombs down in the back. That's not the word. You got some beehives down in the back. Wow, he will sustain up his jungler, and Kirmi would have been able to do it just fine himself. And I think now in back-to-back games, we've shown love to BennyQ for these kind of disruptive style mid laners, the unique picks. In back-to-back games, Kirmi has been around to capitalize on a lot of that, create a lot of pressure. I think maybe the most killing member of the WINNERDOGS in game number 1. Looks like continuing that trend here into game 2, 5, 1, and 3. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and one of the big ones is this Camazotz and how you're going to deal with that damage on top of everything else that the WINNERDOGS are bringing.
Well, Kirmi doesn't seem too concerned with their answer. Leaps over the wall aggressively, is forced to use that ultimate defensively this time around, but CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB has already used so much, they're fighting at a deficit regardless of taking that ult.
Calvin does not have his ultimate. Haven't seen much from the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel so far this game. Primal Fury secured by the WINNERDOGS. Some of the members of the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB have shown some face. That's a big pluck back onto Bevy So this fight disengaged. There's a grouping of the WINNERDOGS in the middle, and they're fighting outwards, and it's working. 2 members down of the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB already. Gamma solo running down Vaporish Coast. And here comes the collapse. BennyQ gets Rapio. Wowie gets Calvin. Kirmi might fall on the end of this fight. Coast silenced. We'll get 1 auto attack in. And 1 kill is all the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB have. It's a Donnybrook around the Gold Fury. And the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB are decided.
Man, and the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB actually approached that team fight pretty well. They find 2 members in the back line. Wowie was isolated by Rapio, but Wowie still had all of his relics available, and Wowie's playing with a 3-level lead. So even in finding him alone, or now a 1-level lead actually, Vaporish Coast closing that one up a fair deal, it wasn't enough. His damage output is too high, despite going for the unorthodox build with the Titan's Bane in that first slot. The WINNERDOGS are just playing with house money right now. They approach that team fight and get surrounded and fight their way out. A dog pile on the Chaos team. They just toss bodies.
It was like 300. They were surrounded by all angles, but that's where they want to be. And they fight outwards, and the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, 1 by 1, would end up being picked off. And so if we haven't drawn enough similarities to game 1, now we're in the dying stages of where game number 1 was. Aquarius is picked up, but not nearly enough damage to force this Sobek outside of anything from just uncomfortable. But 20 minutes in, if it took 22, 23 minutes in game 1 for the WINNERDOGS with a similar, maybe even less gold lead to go towards that FG, still some towers up on the right side of the map. But the stage is set. Can't you see it? There's a left side Phoenix that's open. There's a hefty gold lead for the WINNERDOGS, and there's been nearly no pushback from the EU SOC team. Feels like maybe FG and end for the WINNERDOGS here, just under 21 minutes.
Yeah, just waiting on a couple of those key cooldowns. Sobek ultimate, Aquarius waiting on that one slightly. Maybe 30 seconds left on the beads from Kirmi, and then a minute for Wowie's Aegis, and then I'm expecting the WINNERDOGS to just saunter in jollily towards this Fire Giant. Or maybe don't even wait, because you know you just have that kind of an advantage.
Look at all the pressure BennyQ's taking in the mid lane.
Wow.
Dharmic Pillars goes down onto the Fire Giant. Can you get this kill on BennyQ? No, you can't. His Aegis is going to buy him time. Coast goes in, but he's standing on the damage, and from the grave, BennyQ will send Vaporsh Coast to the same destination. Kiermi adds the second of this fight. Gunter got a big role to play on the end of this one. The only mid laner left in the game. Rapio jumps up and over, snags a kill onto Wowie. It's another massive target, but you can't forget the 8-2-6 Kamazat's. A double kill for Kiermi, makes it 9.
It's a two-man trade here for the WINNERDOGS. It's 3 members of the CAPTAINOTI fan club that have fallen, and it's Rapio who walks away in the middle of that team fight. Gotta think had he stuck around, he may have been able to finish off at least Gamma, who's sub 10% HP, but instead, it is the WINNERDOGS who get to walk away with a 1 fight, as well as the objective. Bevy Monster rears his head just to watch the Pyromancer fall down, and you can see very clearly that the WINNERDOGS were not looking for that engagement. It's telegraphed very clearly by the fact that Gamma just drops Dharmic Pillars on the ultimate.
Yeah.
Had he had that for the fight itself, the fight very likely could have been much more one-sided, but it's just BennyQ who gets caught out on his rotation towards the Fire Giant that forces the entirety of the WINNERDOGS to rotate into the least good fight that they've had so far, and the least good is still a win.
That is still a win. Look, and that shows you some of the punishability of an Anubis. Granted, it took 4 of CAPTAINOTI fan club and BennyQ being alone to get that advantage. WINNERDOGS still able to find the kill advantage, though, at the end of the fight. And so you imagine that doesn't slow down the WINNERDOGS all that much. Was a 10K gold lead, now about a 9,000 gold lead for the WINNERDOGS. Far, far from being comfortable for the CAPTAINOTI fan club. But now you started to see Coast and his ability to jump in, finish off some of those kills. If the grasping hands from the ground from BennyQ from the grave didn't kill off Coast, maybe that fight continues to be interesting. So the Ho Yi starting to hit a little bit more value. That said, though, if we talked about some of the mitigated value of a Titan's Bane very early on in the build, that worry is now starting to go away. As the game has gone on, it feels like that item and the value you're getting from the percent pen is just increasing. And Wowie in a very, very strong spot now, as he has been effectively the entire game. Calvin into the back, and all but dead to BennyQ's ultimate.
Calvin forced to retreat, but a nice Fields of Love does create a little bit of space. It's the CAPTAINOTI fan club who chose this fight, and it's them who also take blood first.
Oh no, Rapio, he's in Ragnarok, and he's got Aquarius. We've already seen this. There's too much damage that it takes to kill off the solo laner, and in the meantime, everyone else is dying off. You've got one, but Gunter will keep things interesting. Gets one onto BennyQ, another fight where the Anubis falls, but this time Wowie is still alive, and this time Wowie's got 3. Rapio and Calvin will be the last 2 standing. What objectives are still here? What can you still do if you're the WINNERDOGS? FG on one side, Gold Fury on the other, and a couple low health towers in both lanes.
I can't believe that it's the CAPTAINOTI fan club who are sieging towers, essentially. It's Calvin in first. They're playing at a 10K deficit, like 14,000 experience as well, but the WINNERDOGS were willing to play defensively. They sat inside their own tower and said, all right, if you guys are going to group up this far behind, feel free and try and take a tier 1. The WINNERDOGS win out in yet another engagement, but the CAPTAINOTI fan club, in drawing blood in both engagements, or of the last 2, kind of gives you a little bit of faith in their ability to start fighting in these late game team fights a little bit more so.
A little bit of faith, just a little bit.
Slight.
A slight ounce of faith. Is that the way you have to play it, though? I mean, was this the type of game where if you're not playing more aggressively and more actively, if you're the CAPTAINOTI fan club, the stage is set, right? I mean, WINNERDOGS go to FG, take down your towers, likely win a fight or 2 under a Phoenix, and maybe just end the game. Do you feel like you have to play a little bit more forward if you're the CAPTAINOTI fan club? Because they've punished now BennyQ in back-to-back fights, and that's kept things interesting.
I do agree that the CAPTAINOTI fan club's draft is much better suited for aggressive styles of play. You want Rapio and Bevy Monster kind of spearheading, Calvin engaging these fights, even Gunter on Tiamat is going to be very effective in the dive. We've seen Vaporsh Coast use that leap aggressively every single time, and that is this draft at its strongest. So I think it's a little bit more so at the feet of WINNERDOGS in allowing CAPTAINOTI fan club to play that aggressive style.
Kiermi loses a good bit of his health, but so does the FG. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel has got effectively nothing this entire game, and it will remain the same, except for the ultimate out of Kiermi. There's some value there, but BennyQ will not be put down this time. The carries combined for way too much damage on the left side of the fight. And Myth, this might just put this game to bed. This is a 3-for-none already And at least in the last 2 fights, the Captain Odie fan club had found some kills. This is anything but. Lots of relics burnt from the WINNERDOGS, but no health bars fully burnt out.
No, and the Fire Giant is burnt out. WINNERDOGS have it on all 5 members, and only a couple towers standing between them and the last exposed birds of the Captain Odie fan club. We saw exactly what happened in that team fight. A couple of members were able to close gap onto Benny Q. And Benny Q channeled ultimate, and he started tracing lines in a drawing book, and it just evaporates people on the map. Rapio is immediately removed, and afterwards he was able to shift his attention elsewhere. Benny Q doesn't even necessarily have to use the relics, as both beads and Aegis still available. You got to get through the ultimate first, and Captain Odie fan club were unsuccessful.
We have seen some fight from the Captain Odie fan club, just has not been successful so far. This WINNERDOGS team, in now back-to-back games, just looked more aggressive, a little bit more clean cut. And really maybe just the game plan has been a little bit better, centered around some of the eclectic picks out of the mid lane. Was not an answer early in the lane. Remember, Benny Q with just Pythag's piece, solo ulted Calvin in the 2v1, and the game has just not looked comfortable for the Captain Odie fan club from that point on. So now you zoom out, you look at the game state, both towers gone on the left, both towers gone on the right. WINNERDOGS just have one more tier 2 tower remaining with a hell of a lot of time left on this Fire Giant. And so the Captain Odie fan club, if they haven't shied away from fighting underneath some of the WINNERDOGS towers, maybe a Phoenix provides a little bit more safety here in keeping this game alive.
But the Captain Odie fan club, yet again, do not have the greatest defensive composition. I think they find themselves in a position where they really do want to try and be the aggressors yet again. Beads are down on Kirmi and Wowie for the next 40 or so seconds. Kirmi has CC immunity thanks to Bat Out of Hell, but Wowie isn't as lucky. Fields of Love doesn't make you glow gold. So if Captain Odie fan club are able to find Wowie in the next 26 seconds, that could be an opportunity.
There's your window to win the game.
Get out there. Get active.
You got 26 seconds. But the WINNERDOGS obviously playing around that, as they'll keep Wowie plenty back and plenty safe. Final tower on the Captain Odie fan club side of the map will drop down. Mid lane Phoenix being looked at. And we're not keeping anything interesting here. The WINNERDOGS just grouping as 5 in the mid lane, feeling comfortable with the ability to win a 5v5. That said, Kirmi so strong at this point in the game. Has Hidden Blade as well, and so you imagine that initial burst damage plus dive in will make the WINNERDOGS jungler feel comfortable in any 1v1s that he may end up taking. So it could be a 4-1 split. You send Kirmi mid, but just flexing back and forth, waiting on some of these minions to work in. The benefit of a Tiamat Myth is that you got some Tiamat minions working down left, but that will not stop the engage coast. Jumped on in the back. Will this just be an easy kill for Kirmi? Aegis times out, and yes, it will. The WINNERDOGS get rid of the Captain Odie fan club Hunter. The support is gone as well. Gunter is able to turn around 1 kill, but it's on to Kirmi. There's still way too much damage, and the WINNERDOGS from minute 7 to minute 30 have controlled this game, and they find themselves 1 game away from winning the set.
Gunter and Rapio are going to try their best. Good damage output onto Gamma, but the Titan's falling fast.
And it falls at the end with a deicide. The WINNERDOGS 28-9 in the kill department in game number 2. And Myth, this is back-to-back games with a very similar story for this WINNERDOGS team. And it's a little bit, the timeline has moved up here in this game. Felt like 10 minutes in game 1. You're starting to look at like 5 to 7 minutes here in this game. We wondered how the meta and the melding of the minds between EU and NA, SEC, and SOC would kind of mesh here. Right now, the aggression is winning the day.
Yeah, it turns out if you're a pacifist and you're lined up against someone who's throwing haymakers, you're probably going to get hit, right? And that's exactly what's happened so far in games 1 and 2. I want to see Captain Odie fan club utilize some of that early aggression, but something that was alluded to by the desk earlier was that the fact that Captain Odie fan club was the team that had Thanatos that did 0 damage for the first 20 minutes and then nearly found a pentakill in the late. I don't think this is a team that likes to play that early game style. It's just whether or not they can hold on throughout, and so far have not been too successful in doing so.
You know who else threw haymakers, Myth?
Who's that?
It's Donnie Brooks.
Brooks.
He was a great boxer.
Hockey player. Boxer, yeah.
Boxer, hockey player, not sure. WINNERDOGS, he'll take game number 2, 1 game away from winning this best-of-5 set to start off the placements weekend. Stick around, game number 3, right after this.
make sure and head on over to shop.smiteproleague.com to get any of the cool merchandise we have available for the Pro League, whether it be a team that you want to represent or just some generic SPL merchandise. And we also still have our joggers out there. It's definitely getting colder out there. I actually had to defrost my car this morning because it's actually cold enough for there to be some ice over the windshield. So make sure you pick up a pair of joggers. That way you can keep yourself warm during this holiday season. Thanks to our friends over at Insight Apparel for sponsoring us with some merchandise for all of you fans out there of the SPL. Shop.smiteproleague.com to get your joggers and anything else Smite Pro League related. But here in game number 2, we finally got some more fight out of Captain Odi Fan Club. They got kills this game, so I guess there's already a big benefit there. But they tried fighting into this composition that WINNERDOGS brought out. The only problem is the WINNERDOGS are very adept at this extremely scrappy style of play, Gore.
Yeah, and you get that kind of draft for it as well. Like, it goes hand in hand. It was a North American draft, and they got to play the exact style that they're used to, right? Very scrappy, as you'd said. Lots of kills that come up. Unfortunately for the Captain Odi Fan Club, a lot of WINNERDOG kills that come up. I am excited to see them get some fight back, but it feels like it took a little bit too long for them to get online. I think that's really where a lot of this started to fall apart for them. You look at what Captain Odi Fan Club did, it was a slow start for them, and like you heard Dave's in call. At minute 7, WINNERDOGS are ahead, and they never really felt the pressure until it was too late, it felt like. And this is exactly who I wanted to talk about, not just Kiermi, because Kiermi had an absolutely nuts game on this Camazotz with a 4.67 KDA. But it's also because the last time we saw Camazotz, let's roll it back to the Phase 3 playoffs, he lost 10 out of 13 games that week.
It's not good.
He was not doing too hot. And I will admit, Captain Odi Fan Club did not start off with Camazotz in the exact position that you maybe would have wanted. But this is the performance he can give. You look at those numbers, you look at his stats, and you're like, why are people still picking him? It's because of what the high-end capability is. Kiermi brought that. You got good damage out of Benny Q to really help set up and find a lot for specifically Wowie to come in and do a lot on this Cupid, a lot of control, a lot of peel for his team. This just felt like, again, another WINNERDOGS draft, right? They're not necessarily playing anything that I'm going to say, hammer home, this is absolutely the meta and this is what to expect. Maybe we're seeing that out of the Ganesh. But for the most part, this is exactly what they would want to play whenever they were playing, and they still look good on it. It doesn't surprise me too much.
Yeah, but Wowie putting up a 9-1-7 game on this
It's
Cupid,
kinda nuts.
10-3-8 on Kiermi. That's also pretty nuts. Talk about the perfect 0-0 and then 20 assists out of Gamma on the Ganesh. The Undying, obviously, hard for him to get a kill
Yeah.
of his own, granted there. But getting those 20 assists. Also, just to point out, you at home didn't get to hear me because we were in the green room during the game. But I got unreasonably excited the fact that Wowie played the B skin because it reminded me of the Get Wrecked AMC I'm the Real B meme that I put out like a week ago or something on Twitter, which is an unusual plug for me to make. But I got a nice little laugh out of there. But WINNERDOGS, a nice performance out of here in game number 2, puts them up ahead in the set. And now the question I have to pose to you, Gore, when you're getting in these backs against the wall situations, you've got to pull out all the stops here. What are those stops that Captain Odi have to grab here? Is it making some completely unorthodox draft that we'd never seen from them before to kind of pull that back pocket strategy out? Or what is it that they got to do to try and shut down these WINNERDOGS?
There's definitely something to be said about more active and proactive early game, and I think that's something. It's actually rare that we get to see this. When you watch these broadcasts, right? If you're watching the NASCC and then the EUSCC, you see the differences. But it's been a while since we've gotten to see them go head to head. Like even in the SBL, you have some teams that tend towards the European style, some that tends towards like a North American style. But here it's just straight up. Yes, one is playing NA, that's WINNERDOGS. The other one's playing EU, and that's the problem. If you go watch a lot of those SCC sets for Europe, you're genuinely, you might not see kills until 20 minutes into the game. They want to farm, they want to hang out. I think you either have to adapt to that or force a draft out of WINNERDOGS that makes them play that style. It's way harder to force a draft that's going to force someone into that style of play. So the best bet you have is adapt to an early game fight, right? Get something like your last draft that's not only able to fight but still scales well into the late game. But get active as early as you can. I mean, there's an Anubis in mid lane last game, for God's sake. Kill him! Get in there! Murder him!
He doesn't move. He literally has 2 abilities where he doesn't get to move. Now, granted, we did see a stray from the build into Tiamat this time. Instead of going for that book build, this library style of build, we did see a little bit more damage-oriented coming out of the Tiamat to try and answer back to it a little bit earlier on the Divine Ruin. But Tiamat is more aptly known towards being a late-game god, so seeing that was kind of the selection, and then obviously it was picked way before the Anubis. But instant adaptations here. Erlong Shen, Hell, and Ganesh, the first bands out of Captain Odie. Morgan, Izanami, Geb, nothing changed here from the WINNERDOGS. But this time, you want to talk about getting active early, get a Kleena here for Captain Odie Fan Club.
Yes, and I want to see. So you had Fenrir last game, but like you had said, Fenrir paired with the Tiamat, right? So you have some early potential, but maybe not the best that you could get. I don't want to see the Tiamat locked in. I want to see something else go into the mid lane here. And I think along with this Kleena pickup, especially with a Hajiman, I think they're actually off to a really good start for Odie shifting the style of play they need to bring in order to take them on. That being said, you still get the RDO, you get a Kamazotz. It feels like a really big control factor already on the side of the WINNERDOGS.
I want to talk about control, getting active early, and doing a lot of damage. A Bacchus lock-in for Captain Odie Fan Club. Calvin really had a star-studded performance on this guy when they had a run during the SCC qualifiers a couple of months back. You like the Bacchus pickup here from them here in Game 3.
Honestly, like it feels very early for a Bacchus in like the grand scheme of things, because if I'm going tick list of who's going to get picked up, you still got Yamoja available. Hey, guess who just gets locked in? you have all of these other Guardians that were still available. I'm not crying over Bacchus at this point in the draft, so I think they could have pushed it down. But I do like it. In fact, I like it just as much with the Emoji over there because he's got some anti-heal built into his kit, right? And he's got really good setup, really good damage for a Guardian. I think he's going to be able to bring a lot to the table. And like you mentioned, Calvin, who is one of my favorite support players to watch, is really good at Bacchus as well. So it really does stack up for them. But it does feel a little early, and I think that's going to give maybe some openings overall for the WINNERDOGS to control something else in the draft here.
It'll be an Odin and a Heimdall for the first two bands out of these two teams, that Yamoja being the third pick, which you kind of just like willed it into existence. You're like, they're still good gods. Like, Yamoja. Here's a Yamoja. Might as well throw that there. And then a Nike band. Nike, we didn't see picked band really prioritized at all in the first couple of games. Why are we seeing a Nike band just kind of seemingly out of left field here?
Well, this is the same thing they did in Game 1, right? It's actually the exact same 5 bands for WINNERDOGS. The Odin and the Nike are really solid just because of the fact that they bring cages. They survive a lot. Nike's just obnoxious in the right scenarios.
Okay, that's
huge
true.
team-wide slow, literally stops autos, will bully you and knock you around. And I think it's just something that, if you look at the last, like the playoffs in Phase 3, you go look at the Phase 3 for the SBL, you go look at the last couple of weeks of SCC play that we had, Nike was on the rise and doing really well, and she was able to run 2 roles. Some people were flexing her into 3 anyway, but realistically, you would throw her into the jungler, into the solo lane, and she'd be very happy. I think this is just a blanket. We don't want to deal with it, and we know that she's good. Let's control her.
Couple of bans towards Wowie here, though, with that Heimdall earlier, and a Cupid. Putting a lot of respect to him. That was...
I didn't want to get super loud. You need a lot of air for high notes, and
that
I
is
didn't
true.
want to yell into the
That is true. You really do. But it will be Charybdis instead, locked in for WINNERDOGS. So you ban a couple of hunters. You pick yours up early with the Hachiman. We kind of glossed over a little bit with Hachiman Bacchus as a duo lane, very safe, but also getting hit pretty hard. Now you pair that up against Charybdis in the duo lane. One more pick left for WINNERDOGS, and I'm only assuming it's got to be their mid lane now left, because they got Yamoja and Ardio already locked in, unless this Charybdis somehow flexes towards mid. Well, we've seen the Charybdis mid before.
Baronic likes running that for the Scarabs, and honestly, I will say that's some of the best look we've seen out of the Scarabs is when they throw the Charybdis over into the mid lane. And it's something like, look, we just saw Benny Q play Chalk into Anubis. Charybdis mid is not the most outlandish thing he might do today, so not really something that I wouldn't expect. But at the same time, this last pick's absolutely going to be Benny Q's. They're just waiting because he's going to pick something ridiculous. What have we seen in the highlights? I want to see if I can will something else to it. Kabrakan? He's played a lot of Kabrakan mid. That could be a weird one. Wukong mid? Let me think. I don't know if I like any of those picks into this, but at the same time, I'm not going to stop him. It's Benny Q, and they're up 2-0. Let him play what he wants.
Yeah, Benny Q can do what Benny Q wants to do here. Instead, it'll be Sobek and Discordia on the opposite side here, locked in for Captain Odie Fan Club. Discordia, kind of one of those mages I've been noticing has kind of been rising up to replace what was kind of that top 3 among the mages for a while. She's kind of been shirking her way up there just a little bit. Bit by bit, team by team, have started picking this goddess up more What is about this Discordia that's really making her such a popular pick now?
Her passive is really good, just in general. So I think a lot of this, actually, now that you have Kleena in the game, depending on how much damage you're getting early on, she's going to be getting bonus. So yeah, that's going to hurt if that goes the way. But it's also, look at the CC. You had mentioned it earlier, but Kleena doesn't have a lot of her own CC. A lot of good damage, a lot of good setup potential in terms of being able to pop out of the wall and just be like, I'm here. But realistically, she doesn't have anything to lock you down. Discordia hits a really good strife, and then all of a sudden you're just smacked with Kleena damage. This could be a really, really good kill lane in the mid.
And it's not the Tiamat. You were saying no Tiamat for CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, and so they will not go it here. So it's so big Discordia. But now we're still waiting here. Benny Q really biding his time on exactly what he wants to go as a last pick. And I asked you in the green room, and you confirmed it with me. Anything that's played here is technically counted towards
I'm counted as
SPL plays. Only ESET and Nox have not been played yet, because even that's wild that Kleena got a game of play literally day one of her release. These guys have not seen it the entirety of this season.
I'm glad you said that. I got to go take her off my list real fast.
Yeah, now she's off the list. ESET has been banned before in SPL play and played in SCC, but now for the first time in an quote-unquote SPL setting here in the Smite World Championship placement, we do get ESET for the first time locked in.
Look, I'm just saying, Benny, ESET's way more likely to get played the rest of this week than Nox is. So if you're up 2-0, look, I wouldn't. I'm just saying, if you're up 2-0 and you're going to give me a guy that hasn't been seen yet, I would have preferred the Nox. This is going to be good for them. Look, it's actually baffled me that ESET has not been played so far this year.
Crazy.
Because I love ESET. Like, I mean, Dispel Magic is one that is, an ability, like just being able to silence people, get yourself a shield, you have a little survivability, but you could ignore that completely. You could ignore Wind Gust, honestly, because I don't care about those two. It's a Spirit Ball and her ult are just so good. Her ult does so much around objectives, does so much damage, so much healing, is so nice, but Spirit Ball it's so hard. You get a max range Spirit Ball, it does 1.5x damage. It hits harder if you're able to max range it. I just love the way that her kit can work out. And look at all the setup that she has around her. I think this is going to be one, and maybe not popping off early on. I actually like Odie's team comp for the early game a lot better. But realistically, Camazotz plus ESET in a 2v2 in mid is going to be really fun to watch with the amount of CC and, again, survivability they're going to be able to bring.
I think one fun thing for me to kind of watch out here is going to be the objective play out of both of these. I mean, we saw what Kleena was able to do to a Pyromancer just by herself. Now we have an ESET who's known for one of the best objective securing ultimates in the entire game. Maybe not shred, but definitely objective secure. So I gotta imagine here, Gore, that this is going to be more of an objective-centric game than we saw in the previous ones, where Game 1 and Game 2 was a lot more about just the kills.
And I will say, at least from all of the memory I have, objective gameplay right now from CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB hasn't exactly been what you want. I know the one that was stolen away by WINNERDOGS, otherwise a lot that have just been controlled by WINNERDOGS. I think this is going to be the best bet they have to get on the road like as fast as they possibly can, get things in their control as fast as they can, try to slow down what the WINNERDOGS are bringing. But if they play the first 10 minutes the way they played the first 10 minutes, I don't know that the draft is going to matter as much. I think that it's going to end up being a gold lead going over towards WINNERDOGS once again. And now you have to contend with things. If you make it to a late game, you go 30 minutes like it did this last one, all of a sudden you have a Yamoja to worry about with that healing. You have an Artio late game that's going to be dealt with. While it might still be easy to kill off someone like ESET, I think you're going to be struggling a lot more if this team gets to any sort of control. So you have to control the WINNERDOGS pretty much right out the gates.
And I guess this kind of now begs question where I'm going to maybe put you on the spot just a little bit here, but backs against the wall for CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB. They taking Game 3, or are we sending it home?
I really hope they can push us to Game 4, but right now the WINNERDOGS are on a hot hand.
Well, let's see if they can take it to Game number 4. Let's jump right in with Dave and Mifflin.
Miff, you and I casting together usually means reverse sweep coming up, right? Is it going to happen here?
Certainly.
I don't know, man. The CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB have been swept by the wayside in both games that we've seen so far here, and the WINNERDOGS do not show much of a sign of slowing down. This draft very similar to what the WINNERDOGS have played. Yet again, though, a different look in the mid lane for Benny Q. It was Chalk, and then last game, still some curveballs, and now we get the ESET in game number 3. This guy is just playing what he wants to play, and the ESET Miff, the next in a long line of some fun picks for Benny Q.
From Chalk to Anubis to ESET, Benny Q on tour across the God selection. In Game 1, he was playing the Zoner around neutral objectives. In Game 2, he was playing The burn, the Anubis ultimate, was the best at just kind of shredding away these objectives. Now in Game 3, BennyQ is the confirmation. He says, if I am at an objective, be it Gold Fury, Fire Giant, or Pyromancer, I'm confirming it in so long as I have my ultimate. Circle Protection is the best confirmation in Smite, full stop. Nothing beats it. When you're standing inside the circle, you get damage mitigation.
Uh-oh.
Doesn't have it yet, though.
BennyQ, is he going to fall for first blood? Rapio is low, though, as well. Over the wall. I was ready for some damage to find its way onto Rapio. Kirmi, though, the healthier of the two junglers, may be able to exert some pressure in the mid lane. Have to jump in from Calvin, stun, maybe to follow Gamma and Wowie, both stunned. Gamma sidestepping some of the damage, but Calvin and Coast do not have it. Now Wowie in a 2v1, returning some onto the enemy ADC. Gamma cannot participate. The rest gets the banner over the wall. Nearly gets it done, but Gamma plays it near perfectly. Calvin jumps in. The belch on the end gets the stun, gets the first blood. There's a stun on Wowie as well, and the Whirlpool will save second blood.
Oh, nearly falls down to the heavenly banner. Vaporish Coast target selection in that small skirmish was pretty wild. I thought once Wowie had utilized the Riptide essentially to get aggressive, it would have just been a turn on to Charybdis. Instead, it's continual focus onto Gamma over the wall. Heavenly banner does not connect. Galvin eventually able to finish off that kill, and Wowie walks out with his life. And this is the first time we've seen this aggression from Captain Odi Fan Club's duo lane hit Pater. He's been sitting exactly where you see him right now, Vaporish Coast, for the entirety of the set, but finally finds himself a lead.
And now it's a very, very different look from what we've seen in either of the two games up to this point, where the WINNERDOGS played slow, they slowly built up a lead, and they were able to snowball things, usually around that first Gold Fury. And so it's at least going to be a different look in regards to this duo lane, but can Kirmi pull it right on back? Vaporish Coast does have beads. Kirmi, he's got the slow, he's got the damage. Wowie's got the kill. Gamma survives in the back. And Calvin should be just fine to survive. And here's the unfortunate thing. It was an early kill for the duo lane, Myth, but it's not on Coast, it's on to Calvin. And now a gank from Kirmi hands one over to Wowie. So it's actually the WINNERDOGS Hunter that comes away from this lane with a kill.
But a 2-level lead for Calvin could amount to something. Potentially a kill here if he's able to connect his entire kit onto Gamma, but with the minion wave and Wowie staring him down, decides not to stick around for that engagement. The WINNERDOGS, specifically Kirmi, has a great rotation there to turn around that lane. Had Vaporish Coast been allowed to sit there and clear waves, it would have been a complete lead for the Captain Odi Fan Club in the duo. But now, maybe, with Calvin having so much of that experience to his name, could be that the Captain Odi Fan Club support is forced to stick around a little bit longer, considering I believe Wowie's got about a half-level lead.
Yeah, a little lead there maybe for Wowie on the right side of the map. Kirmi's here with Bat Out of Hell. Good body blocks from Aquarius. Bevy Monster did not have Lurking in the Waters, but did have Dash on out. And so nothing more to be gained over here on the right. There has not been, Myth, very much pressure from what I'm remembering put on right. Maybe a little bit in Game 2. We saw Captain Odi Fan Club grouping around that blue buff a little bit more often, but both solo laners largely have been left alone by the junglers outside rather. A little bit of a head poke here and there. Calvin will get the stun onto Gamma. But Coast is taking a lot of damage from Wowie in the meantime, who is level 5 to Vaporish Coast and Calvin's level 4. So maybe a small window here to get aggressive. Wowie agrees. Stun onto Calvin. But the range just too far now. Calvin, he's got ultimate, and it is perfect onto Gamma, and that'll be the sacrifice. Coast will pull back a kill now, and now it's the Hachiman on the board.
Meditation baits in current season of current year. That's wild. Calvin pops it immediately off of getting hit by that stun from Wowie, and, well, just heals through the majority of that damage, keeps his ADC topped off, and Vaporish Coast able to turn around that engagement. A highly contentious duo lane so far, 4 or so minutes in. Every single kill has happened in this lane, and Vaporish Coast has yet to vacate the tower line. I'm expecting both of these teams to be forced to play around the long lane for the near future, especially considering, well, the Fury's going to be spawning up pretty shortly.
Well, Myth, I wonder if BennyQ is adding some viability to playing around the mid lane here with the way that his build has gone. You go Lost Artifact, just the tier 1 item to start off, going into lane. Choose not to complete that item first and foremost, and said Stone of Binding for BennyQ. Do you think that might shift around where some of the pressure can find its way onto the map?
Well, it means that BennyQ's got a lot more damage output than he would have otherwise. You start off just about every single engagement as E-set with either the silence or the stun, potentially even both, and now in doing so, does additional damage to whoever he decides to target out. I think that Benny Q, now also having that survivability, could even start to move towards some of these red buff invades as long as Kirmi is around with him. I'm excited to see how the WINNERDOGS elect to play around this pick, especially considering it's not just a unorthodox pick in general. ESET is not one that we see in mid too often. Unorthodox build as well, and a lead, level 8 to Gunter's 7.
Uh-oh, Wowie, are you in some trouble here? There are 3 members of the Captainoti fan club closing this gap. That said, Charybdis safe. The Whirlpool, the first bit of utility. The CC immunity and the ultimate, the second. But it's only CC and it's not damaged. Coast will find the big arrow and get the last bit of damage. This is a rotation in from the WINNERDOGS, but this is still a 3 versus 2. This would be a bad fight, surely. And the Captainoti fan club continue to play around the left side of the map. And Vaporish Coast, this is what we've been missing, Myth, in games 1 and 2, was Coast in a position to make a big impact on the game. And it's so different here in game number 3. 6.5 minutes in, 1 level lead, a couple of kills. A much better look for the OD fan club duo lane.
Coast walks up on Kirmi on his own, drops him down incredibly low. Kirmi up to the air.
And Kirmi, where does Bat Out of Hell go? Out to the safety of the tier 2 tower is the answer. Coast dodging out a lot of the CC that Gamma was putting down there. Very close, though, was Kirmi to death. Needed that Bat Out of Hell. And it's a continued example of where the pressure lies on the map right now for the Captainoti fan club. And it's going to be then a different look because the WINNERDOGS have been springboarding their leads around these Gold Furies, but it's been around what feels like a very comfortable duo lane. That is a very different look here in game 3, so the game plan's got to change.
I am curious, though, even though Wowie has had the lead for the last 2 games, he didn't play like it, did he? He was always inside of his tier 1 tower. He's no stranger to this style of play. Now Vaporish Coast 2 levels up on Wowie, but I'm not expecting too much a change from the WINNERDOGS. Sure, you don't have that same ability to just take the fight at the Gold Fury itself. If Vaporish Coast rotates into anything, he's going to deal a ton of damage like that.
Coast going in, 2v1, will be stunned in place by Gamma and Wowie. But that is a characteristic of Vaporish Coast. This time, though, it's actually viable to be playing that way. You're not going in with a 2-level discrepancy, 3v1 on a Heimdall in the same way that we saw in game 1. This is now okay to play this way if you're Vaporish Coast, though you've lost a bit of your health bar. Kirmi's over on the left. Coast takes a big chunk of damage. Mounted Archery will get Vaporish Coast out and alive. And so maybe that opens up some return pressure here for Kirmi, who does have Bat Out of Hell. And now is where you have to talk about Benny Q and his different style of pick, Myth, where sure you don't have the same big level lead, 2-level lead for your Hunter over in the duo lane, but you do have some of the best secure. And so maybe that still mounts some confidence here for the WINNERDOGS in either stealing or starting this Gold Fury.
But even in having the best secure, this is the one time you really want Wowie to be ahead if you're on the WINNERDOGS, because he is the sole source of dedicated burn on these objectives. Kirmi's got okay burn, Mannequin Scepter, the best starter item for junglers to look towards neutrals.
Yeah.
Kamazotz as well just has decent damage output, but it's not the same as a Kleena, it's not the same as an Anubis, it's not the same as having an ADC that's been 2 or 3 levels up for the entirety of this set. So despite having the best confirmed for objectives in the game on the side of the WINNERDOGS, there aren't going to be very many opportunities to look towards those objectives for at least a couple of minutes until Wowie can find some sort of equilibrium in the lane.
So maybe, Myth, it feels like the WINNERDOGS just straight out of the fountain, minute 0. You're playing around at least hoping your duo lane is even. You know, like maybe the way that the game has gone, you're just hoping that you can at least try to take some fights around these objectives with a somewhat close duo lane. But has been anything but, as Wowie has fallen a couple levels behind. Calvin over to the mid lane. And this is what you love to see in a Bacchus, the ability to play like this. You only get silenced and you dodge literally everything else out. And that's a belly flop out and away from Calvin, who looks like Myth will stick with some of that flat penetration and some anti-heal for a second item.
Yeah, Divine Ruin likely going to be the pickup here, just dealing with what Gamma's bringing on this Yemoja. The WINNERDOGS may not have the opportunity to move towards the Gold Fury itself, but Pyromancer, certainly something you can keep your eyes towards. That spawned up just now. With Oracle Vision, the WINNERDOGS could just utilize that to make sure the Captainoti fan club isn't going for the objective, but unsuccessful in securing those. Vision goes to the Order side as well as positioning.
Ooh, good Riptide in onto Calvin. Does have Intoxicate, and a great River's Rebuke is going to keep this Bacchus right where he stands, but is there enough damage? Look at the healing on the back end. Gamma's taken so much, and the apple is there, and it's weaved its way in, and Gunter has picked up his first kill of the game, and now the dominoes fall. The Captainoti fan club, they set them up and they knock them down. Aquarius could get one back over from the solo lane, but he is alone. He is the last member of the WINNERDOGS alive. Calvin waddling away, and finally something for the WINNERDOGS, but the rest of the fight is for the fan club.
Aquarius, he's not out of there just yet. Slow, no good from Rapio. Bevy Monster not able to close gap to find that pluck, but the fight does go the way of the Order side. 7-2, a complete inversion of what we've seen in the last couple games this set. And Captainoti fan club, they're looking better for it. Could start to look towards the Gold Fury. They've got incredibly strong burn. Maybe not the greatest confirmation from Discordia, but a massive Vaporish Coast out of the duo lane. 4 levels up on Wowie. You've got a Kleena in the jungle, so that ultimate might as well be shredding objectives on their own. And Rapio's got a 2-level lead to his own name as well. Captainoti fan club, they're cooking with fire right now, but they have to move in towards these objectives. We haven't seen them look towards anything on the map insofar as macro play. It's all been about the fight for the last 11.5 minutes.
Have to play cautiously when BennyQ has the ability to take those objectives away. And I think, what, you showed me a Rapio tweet before this game, right? I think going into today, of course there's some jest around
They said they win in 3, 4 if they're trolling.
Right.
Rapio, as of, was it 11 minutes into this game?
Ago,
So
after going down 0-2.
25 minutes ago, tweeted out 5 if we're trolling.
5 if we're trolling. And look, but there's something to be said about being able to update your mindset as new information comes available. And he's been informed that they're down 0-2 in this set. So 4 is not possible. 5 is the only possible outcome now for the Captainoti fan club to find a win. Giving yourself a great chance at least one more to at least find your way into one more game with a decent gold lead here in Game 3 of this best of 5. The WINNERDOGS have not fallen that far behind. You know, we're just under 2,000 gold, right around 2,000 gold, which has been hefty enough for the WINNERDOGS to springboard that lead in both of the games that we've seen so far. But you're right, Miff. It's around those objectives where the Captainoti fan club can really start to separate themselves here. That said, there is still a lot of gold to spool up for Vaporish Coast. He is 4 levels ahead of Wowie.
No.
Can he just chase this down with his ultimate? This is going to be a lot of damage. Mounted archery.
Oh, great juke.
Dodged on out from Wowie, but the damage still connects. All the stun is there. But Calvin is here, and the 1v1 becomes a 2v1. Wowie played that about as well as you can. But this is a good opportunity for the WINNERDOGS to collapse in and maybe grab a kill.
Vaporish Coast isolated, stuck between the oceans. Does drop down to BennyQ, but that was an expensive kill. Costs circle protection as well. Calvin over the wall. He meets with Kirmi.
Calvin will stun out Kirmi, who jumps right on over it. No stun follow-up from BennyQ. Silence is there. Stun is there, and the WINNERDOGS pull back 2 kills. They only lose their Hunter, and finally, the duo lane of the Captainoti fan club takes some pressure. That's a 2-for-1 trade for the WINNERDOGS.
But this is what I'm talking about, man. Captainoti fan club are unconcerned with the objectives. They'd rather dive tier 2 towers than look towards a Gold Fury. Bevymas in some trouble, has the backup of Rapio. Is this going to be a dive on Aquarius into the tower? That's a pretty hefty RDO. Not sure you want to take that one.
Well, Aquarius is going back in. That's because Gamma is here. Pluck out, but Aquarius mitigates so much of it. These two are so low, but I don't think Gamma has nearly enough damage to kill off one or maybe even both of them. At least not in a 2v1. If Kirmi was a little closer, maybe. But that's Aquarius just trying to buy some time. Could have left, but tried to keep the door open to a maybe turnaround there. And that's what the Captainoti fan club needed to kind of rejuvenate their efforts on the right.
Yeah, but Aquarius a little bit overzealous with his play style there. Decides to stick around and loses out on his life. Even had Gamma close gap a little bit sooner. The best you can hope for is a little bit more healing, and then Aquarius has to finish off those kills on his own. I'm still reeling, though, David. Just thinking about the play that we saw from Wowie, the backstep to avoid the cavalry charge from Vaporish Coast, the push into the tower, eating up the Aegis from the Hachiman as well. Just phenomenal individual play, despite still being down 4 levels. Vaporish Coast is level 15. There's no world where Wowie should want to take a fight, just about ever.
I don't think he did. He used,
he
used everything to get out, and Vaporish Coast had the gap close. And so if you continue to play around this left side, Captainoti fan club rolling their way into what you would assume would be a Game 3 win. But still the eyebrows are raised. When does this Fury start to get pulled? When do we consider a Pyromancer? There's a Fire Giant on the table in the next 5, 6, 7 minutes. Captainoti fan club biding their time. You have plenty of shred given the leads that are on the map. Rapio will look for Wowie here, but the back will be completed. Something to be said, though, for Wowie's ability to stay alive. We know what Charybdis is able to do through Whirlpool and that ultimate. How about Bevy Monster, though? Will he be able to stay alive as the dive is here? And the dive is not here, as Kirmi will back on away. Still putting some pressure on Solo Myth, but it really feels like both of these two, between Aquarius and Bevy Monster, and just a straight-up gank, probably too tanky to get a kill.
No, Artio and Sobek both are nearly unkillable at this point in the game, and if they are killable, it's going to take more than just two members. Pyromancer, though, will fall to just the two on the right-hand side. Quick
Benny's
response. Gold Fury, burning quick.
Benny's here. Can you get the range damage out? No, you cannot. Captain Odie Fan Club get the Gold Fury. We wondered how long it would take to pull it, and it was just a matter of time. And the Captain Odie Fan Club get the objective, but Pyromancer on the other side of the map. The WINNERDOGS realize that they have some pressure now in solo. We didn't need the kill, we just needed the space. And so it is an objective trade. Captain Odie Fan Club get the big one, but the smaller, keeping things reasonable objective in the Pyromancer going over to the WINNERDOGS.
And even in the Captain Odie Fan Club taking the Gold Free, didn't feel like it was their decision, to me at least. It felt like they realized WINNERDOGS were going for Pyromancer and said, well, I'm not going to dive a tier 2 tower just now, so we're forced to go towards this Gold Fury. I think Captain Odie Fan Club, had they not been put in that position, would have likely just kept sitting in lanes, kept looking for that aggressive style of play. But now with both neutrals removed from the map and synced up in timing just about, it does open the door for the WINNERDOGS to continually do exactly what we just saw. Go for whichever objective that the Captain Odie Fan Club isn't near. So if the Odie Fan Club is playing around the fire and the pyro, expect WINNERDOGS to be on the opposite side of the map going towards gold.
And if we've talked a lot about the 3 to 4 level lead that Coast has over Wowie, Rapio has put together a fantastic game 3 so far, 303 on this Kleena, 2 to 3 levels ahead of Kirmi. And so the Kamazots has found some effectiveness throughout this set so far, been a popular pick. Unfortunate for the WINNERDOGS that Kirmi hasn't quite hit the same stride as the jungler had in games 1 and 2. And so now we're maybe starting to get into the territory of really being able to see what Kleena can do. The Kleena that we saw earlier in this set, largely kept by the wayside. Maybe the game state just wasn't the best. But now Rapio, a chance to put in some damage, put in some serious work as this game goes on, because we figured, Myth, that this would be a pivotal and a very important pick. Not only over Placements Weekend, but maybe into the World Championship.
Yeah, Kleena just does so much damage. She's got so much mobility that it's hard to deal with her. Similarly, Calvin might be in a hard-to-deal-with situation if he gets pulled back in, and he does.
Oh, that Riptide is just brilliant. What? Calvin walks on out of the River's Rebuke. Suppose it doesn't really matter because he dies anyway. And so Benny Q will grab that kill. 3-1 now, and that's something to keep your eyes on, Myth, is the E-set slowly as this game has gone on. I started to add up some kills here. Stone of Binding will not get procced here, but another great Riptide pulls Rapio back into the wayside, into the wall. Goes the Kleena and out on the other end. I admire the effort from Gamma, but that Riptide doesn't quite hit its mark.
Kirmi forced to use the ultimate defensively here, thanks to Gunter's Golden Apple, but you wouldn't believe it if you were looking at the HP bars. Gunter dropped very low, loses out on his own ultimate. That is a 1 trade for Kirmi, the jungler of the WINNERDOGS, and this nets them pressure to move in towards this tier 1 tower.
Wow.
Gunter can't stay.
I mean, you're telling me the WINNERDOGS are 3,000 gold behind and 4 kills down, and they're still putting pressure on the map. 7.8k experience is maybe the heftier number. And again, largely in the jungle, largely over in Hunter. Everyone else is even or just 1 level down in the case of Aquarius. But that does give you some hope, Myth. The way that last little interaction went for the WINNERDOGS, you're able to find a pick and then some pressure in the mid lane. That shows that this team is not slowing down, not letting the objectives go down in front of themselves and then just hoping a Phoenix defense goes right. Very much still involved in the decision making.
I'm taking a peek at Benny Q's build, and I think I might love it against this composition from Captain Odie Fan Club. It's incredibly tanky. He doesn't necessarily deal the most damage on the map right now, but you still have the best confirmation thanks to just the scaling of Circle Protection. You've got amazing survivability now, and especially against gods like Kleena, this build is almost specifically to deal with Rapio on the other side. What does Kleena do? Damage, and not much else. Well, you're not going to be able to do enough damage to shut down Benny Q through his E-Staff HP stacks, through Stone of Binding defense, Sovereignty defense as well as the damage mitigation from Circle Protection, the HP shields that you gain from her third ability to spell magic. Benny Q is an incredibly hard to deal with target right now, and he still does do just enough damage with this build that you can't ignore him.
No, agreed. It's going to be such a, oh man, what a unique team this WINNERDOGS
They're weirdos.
aren't they, right? I mean, just the way that the drafts work, where 4 out of 5 picks are in, you're saving the last one of the draft for BennyQ seemingly every time, and you're wondering where they're going to go. Surely there's a traditional mage that you're going to opt for. Anything but is what it feels like. That said, this draft has definitely felt more even than maybe they have in games 1 and 2, specifically for Captain Fan Club. This feels like such a strong draft and a great opportunity that the Captain Fan Club have given themselves. And of course, you have to capitalize on it, which they have done, though, as well. So now the Fury back close to respawning. Same thing for the Pyromancer. It's already on the map. So what is the trade? Does there even need to be one? Kleena takes a bit of damage, heals it back up, takes down the Pyromancer, and there's not an immediate reply from the WINNERDOGS, but here it is. It's on to the Oni Fury. Go the WINNERDOGS. Around behind is Calvin. Out in front is Vaporish Coast, and the Fury is dropped under the pressure of the duo lane.
Yeah, there's just no way WINNERDOGS can make a reactionary play there. They had like 3 seconds while Rapio was on the objective to recognize it. What are you going to do about that? Rapio solos the objective incredibly fast. The WINNERDOGS try to go towards the Gold Fury, maybe assuming that a couple of members of Captain Fan Club had been at the Pyro. How are they to know that it was just Rapio? Yeah, not much you could do
now
about that situation.
Right?
Well, now they do. And they realize that they're going to have to keep wards on both neutrals because the trade strategy doesn't really work if one team's shutting it down that quickly.
No.
Wait, fire?
Right? I mean, you have Circular Protection. Is this just going to be a casual warding trip that Calvin is going on? I mean, this fire giant is burning slowly. I mean, it's not even. You know, it's embering. It's flickering with a little bit of light as the WINNERDOGS put some damage into it. Have you done too much, WINNERDOGS? No. Gam is able to Riptide his way out and away. I guess the threat of a Circle of Protection is enough to maybe give you the chance. And if the Captain Fan Club are thinking the same way we did, Miff, that there's no way that the WINNERDOGS are doing it, might be able to sneak a quick one, and that really brings you back into the game.
It does, and even if it comes down to a coin toss, had WINNERDOGS been able to drop it to about 50%, oh my god, he's doing it again. Rapio takes out the Fury, the Oni Fury, with a little bit of help of Vaporish Coast, and I mean a little bit. He may have swung about 2 auto attacks before Rapio was done working through that neutral objective, but as I was saying, if the WINNERDOGS are able to drop Fire Giant down to like 50% HP before Captain Fan Club shows up, it's not a coin toss. Circle Protection is a weighted coin, and I'd say it's like a 30% boon on its own. If you've got that ultimate down on an objective, you should probably never lose it, but I'm going to be generous with it and say maybe there's like a 10-15% chance that Captain Fan Club can out-secure Circle Protection. So I like that strategy from the WINNERDOGS to just show up and put threat onto that major objective to keep Captain Fan Club guessing. Okay, well, it seems like they're confident enough, WINNERDOGS that is, that they could just go towards these objectives, so we on Captain Fan Club have to play cognizantly around it.
We haven't seen that coin toss yet. BennyQ and the rest of the WINNERDOGS have just been pushed away from the objective so far, and no chance to drop down that Circle of Protection. All right, 3 versus 1 in the soul lane. Surely this is enough to kill off the Sobek. No. A dash away will be just fine. That said, the Tier 1 tower is very low here. If you just put some pressure on it, you'll get a nice infusion of gold if you are the WINNERDOGS. And you have to start to now, Miff, keep check on the XP differentials, because in support we're even. Jungle now down to 1 level difference. ADC down to 1 level difference. XP differential effectively mattering not at all in the way that Vaporish Coast had 4 or so levels, 3 levels in the jungle. Now that matters less. What matters is the gold lead that is built up around those level differentials, and that's where the Captain Fan Club are still reaping the reward. About 6,000 gold in the lead. There's a stun on the Bebby Monster. But again, not enough damage. Going into this next fight, decent item advantage for Vaporish Coast. He's got 2 tiers into that next crit item for himself. Well, wow, he completely blank in that final item slot. All eyes need to be on the Hunters.
Yeah, but Short Sword for Vaporish Coast, not a massive power spike, doesn't get any additional crit chance on its own. So the WINNERDOGS, if they want to, could be an opportunity to find some parity in the fight, as insofar as builds at this point, which is why we're starting to see this 5-on-5 grouping for the first time this game. This might be the first opportunity in the last 25 or so minutes where the WINNERDOGS are confident in their ability to take a team fight despite playing through a 4,000 gold deficit.
I mean, Miff, if you covered up the gold leads and covered up the items, I would assume the WINNERDOGS are the ones playing with the lead right now, just the way that they're putting pressure on the right side of the map. That said, it's more of just a, hey, how are you going to react, and not a, we're going to pull the fire giant and see how you react. We're just showing some face over on the right. Though you still get the idea, Miff, that it's more on the Captain Fan Club with the lead when you uncover the screen and see the item, see the gold lead. we're starting to look at maybe an FG pull here 25 minutes in. Maybe ideally you kill off BennyQ first and keep that coin in the back pocket.
Massive power spike for the WINNERDOGS hit here. Mannequin's Hidden Blade picked up by Kirmi, so that is percentage of HP on the first hit. And you can see it rear its head rather on the Calvin. Drop down to about 80% off a one tap from Kirmi. That works on objectives as well. So the WINNERDOGS have just got a huge boon to their ability to shut down the Fire Giant. Not only do they have confirmation, but they've got a good deal of burn as well.
Bevy Monster rip-tied it back, stunned down, silence down, all the CC onto the solo laner.
Goodness.
And the damage is there on the other end, shielding, providing just a little bit of sustain. Bevy Monster is able to stay alive. Gamma on the other side of this fight, though, he's lost so much of his HP. And around the back end, it's Rapio looking for Aquarius, looking for BennyQ. Bevy Monster still on the map. The Sobek will not die. The Blink secures his escape. And instead, it's Aquarius as the solo laner who falls.
WINNERDOGS just did not have the target confirmation there. They weren't all going on the same guy, so everyone got to walk out on the Captain Odi fan club, and that is uncontestable defense from Rapio. Sits inside the wall, says, hey, you want Pyromancer, lose out on your entire HP bars because you can't hit me and I can hit you. The WINNERDOGS, had they just confirmed their kills, had they all just gone onto Bevy Monster, I'm pretty sure that fight falls apart for Captain Odi fan club, but because this Sobek was able to just waltz throughout the team fight, it created so much space for everybody else.
No circle of protection for BennyQ. That's the big one going into this fight. Bede's now down as well. Fire Giant whittled away and secured by the Captain Odi fan club. 27 minutes in, that'll be the regular FG, and it felt like only a matter of time before the lead was capitalized on, and the Captain Odi fan club maybe minutes away from grabbing their first win in this best-of-5 set. Maybe Rapio's got his head on right. 5 if we're trolling. And a win here would get you underway.
Reverse sweep still in the cards, but it's a long ways off.
Surely we'll see one this weekend, right?
Oh, for sure.
We've
you
got,
know how many best-of-5s?
We got 12 best-of-5s, 2 a day for 6 days.
6 days, yeah.
Surely we see one reverse sweep.
Would we count like a 2-game reverse sweep, a reverse sweep? Like if there's like 1 win and then the other team's like up
like
3?
A baby reverse sweep.
Okay, we want the wholesale reverse
so
sweep.
on the spectrum of sweeping.
Okay.
Sweeping
yeah, this one's a Donnie Darko. No, a Donnie.
Sweeping is on the far right, a full-on sweep, and on the far left is like a light dusting, a reverse dusting, right? So somewhere in the middle is a two-game sweep. A brushing maybe, a 2-game brush is what we'll have.
An airbrush.
An airbrush, right? That's what we'll call it throughout the rest of this weekend. Captain Odi fan club, this would be a sweep if they're able to win 3 more, and well underway to the first. And it's all started. You got to rewind the clock. Now the level discrepancy is gone, but the gold not. A full Deathbringer is what Vapor's Coast has over Wowie at this point in the game. You imagine there's some gold in that back pocket for Wowie to get an item. Feels like that slot has been open for a little while. Okay, not much. It looks like starter item upgrade was prioritized there for Wowie. And so there is still a massive gold differential over on the left. And the Captain Odi fan club knocking on the door here in Game 3. Bevy Monster again taking so much damage. Circle of protection down, and again, Bevy Monster will live, and the WINNERDOGS have spent some big ultimates looking for the kill.
They have, but Bevy Monster is going to take a long time to heal back up, so the WINNERDOGS can send their weakest members back to Fountain. BennyQ able to reset himself, and Captain Odi fan club are going to have to lick their wounds in the jungle. What did you call it last game? A Danny DeVito brawl?
Danny DeVito brawl. I'd watch that, but no. A Donnybrook.
Yeah, we had a little Donnybrook on the left Phoenix, and nobody comes out with anything to really write home about in that engagement. Tier 2 towers still standing, so Captain Odi fan club can still pick those up with a minute and a half remaining on Fire Giant. WINNERDOGS, though, I think have done a good job to at least put some fear into Captain Odi fan club. These guys are not going to fold for free. That was not an easy siege.
No, it was not, but you open up the left side Phoenix. And now maybe you're saying, all right, we only got a minute and a half left. Take a deep breath here. Let's knock down the last couple of towers. The WINNERDOGS unlikely to put up a big fight. That said, with the speed the towers go down, you can maybe throw a little bit of caution to the wind here. Give yourself another chance out of Phoenix Siege. Every ultimate ready to go for the Captain Odi fan club. Still missing the River's Rebuke if you're the WINNERDOGS. Outside of that, Med and Ankh down for Calvin and Bevy Monster respectively. But everyone on the WINNERDOGS fully stacked up with their relics. Bevy Monster first in, health bar low, and Bevy Monster attacks away. Oh, Wowie! somehow found the last bit of burst damage, and finally the Sobek is killed.
Yeah, it looked like the Phoenix was able to get the last hit, so credit to the kill
Must have
goes to Wowie. But WinnerDogs, you're still playing in a deficit. Maybe this chase out a little bit overzealous. It seems they agree. Gamma and Aquarius dropped low, but CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB yet again try to siege that left side Phoenix. Yet again send Bevy Monster in first, but not for the 5th time in a row will this Sobek cheat death.
That's right. Nobody survives 4 times in a row and gets away with it. BennyQ, my goodness, circle of protection charged up, but will not help him survive. Vapor's Coast has got the last bit of damage there, stunned on the coast. And now it's Kiermi in the bat out of hell. This is a good looking fight at a massive deficit for the WinnerDogs Coast. He is inside the River's Rebuke, and the River's Rebuke will block the apple as well. And Gunter comes up empty-handed with his ultimate, and the WinnerDogs will not give up. They've effectively gotten a 2-for-1 trade if you consider the kill on Bevy Monster.
And I do, by the way.
Yeah,
he was still dead at the end of that engagement. It looked to me like BennyQ thought he could get the healing from Circle Protection, maybe didn't recognize that he'd already been afflicted by Ankh, so doesn't get any healing, but sticks around in the circle nonetheless. It's an item sell for the WinnerDogs mid laner. BennyQ says, hey, maybe a little bit more survivability. Had purchased a Void Stone, sold it, and we're just going to have to wait to see what that last item is.
Yeah, he's considering it. He's got 10 seconds left. Looks like Pythag's piece. That's what he ends up picking up. We'll see if that's what he walks out of base with. Miff, that has you raising your eyebrows a bit. Not what you would have gone for maybe 32 minutes in.
Well, considering he just got onked, and there's like 2 onks on the side of CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, you're not getting a whole lot of utility from the healing. Maybe he's just picking up for the passive to help out the rest of the team. He's essentially gone for a very supportive style of build, has the defense aura from Sovereignty, now gives his team a little bit more lifesteal through the Pythags piece as well. But I would have thought he would have shifted it up for either straight up survivability, straight up defense, or maybe some real damage.
Calvin left alone. The tanks of the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB have just not been comfortable in the last couple of fights. Kiermi alone in the back, and he is 2v1ing up against Gunter and Vapor's Coast. He's got the burst, he's got the healing to keep himself in the fight. That circle of protection down, but look at the damage from Coast. The crits ringing out in the right side of the jungle as the WinnerDogs surge forward. Bevy Monsters alone. You get the Bridwind shield on the other end of your ultimate, but you've got to get the damage if you're the WinnerDogs, and just shy of pulling back another kill, but you got the mid laner. That's maybe the most important. Fire Giant respawning. Maybe the WinnerDogs with the one-man advantage able to get it.
Bevy Monster first to fully reset, so it's going to be a while before he gets involved yet again. Vapor's Coast leading the charge for his team. Rapio on the right-hand side. CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, they don't want to give it up.
BennyQ trying to juggle where he's putting his CC here. Rapio stunned down by Aquarius. WinnerDogs take the FG in the meantime as Calvin has gone in. A River Rebuke sends the Bacchus on towards the left, and there's too much CC. The WinnerDogs have turned this game around. They are still 8,000 gold in the hole, but it does not matter. An enhanced Fire Giant will bring the WinnerDogs right back in contention. 3 Tier 2 towers stand, and 50 seconds left on their support.
Look, if WinnerDogs end up going back to base before this game ends, gold has all of a sudden stopped having meaning in this match. 33.5 minutes. The only thing that can separate these teams at this point really are some elixirs, and I don't think WinnerDogs are going to let CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB breathe long enough.
Decent ultimate situation as well for the WinnerDogs. Circle of protection back up, but it looks like mid lane Phoenix is the pressure. 25 seconds on Calvin. The left side Phoenix could be an option here. Gunter weaves some damage out over the wall. The Discordia able to slow down that engage, just provide some kite damage that has been so important to the CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, and it looks like Miff, you might be correct here. Mid lane Phoenix, plus Tier 2 on left, plus what looks like an Oni Fury. And then we'll head back, spend up 1,500 gold at least for everyone on the WinnerDogs, up to 2.6k for game.
So 6 items should be finished up for just about everybody on the side of the WinnerDogs, as is the case for CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB, barring Calvin on that side. So, as of now, the WinnerDogs are in the best position that they have been the entirety of this game.
Yeah, literally from like minute 2.
Yeah, it's been tough. CAPTAINOTIFANCLUB are doing a great job of controlling the pace so far, but one Fire Giant fight goes awry. Calvin and Bevy Monster step out of position a couple too many times in a row, and now the WinnerDogs are in a position where they can start to look for the end of this match. I'm excited to see which lane they head down. We'll get a good view of how confident they are in ending the game off of this Fire Giant play immediately. They still have about 2 minutes left on the buff. If they're going down the left-hand side, that means that they want the most valuable Phoenix and not concerning themselves with clearing out these towers. This play tells me they think they can either get this Phoenix and get out quickly, or they're going for the end. Had they started on the right-hand side, that means they don't have really any inclination to go for the end immediately.
Right.
WINNERDOGS, they're playing confidently.
Yeah, not immediately at least. Maybe you circle around left a little bit later. Only Blink is missing as far as relics go, and that's for Kirmi, who played a massive role in that last fight. Kamazot's into the back line, immediately deletes Gunter, nearly kills off a Porish Coast. Some sustain, kept the Hachiman in the engagement. Here come the WINNERDOGS, a chance to 3-0 after being backs against the wall for the first 30 minutes of this game. Coast is locked in the back, and the River's Rebuke. The circle of protection is absolutely massive. The WINNERDOGS, they've gotten everything they came for.
Goodness.
They will win game 1, they will win game 2, and they will end the set despite a massive deficit here in game 3. And they will move on. They will move on to play tomorrow, and the WINNERDOGS come up big.
Man, what an ultimate combo. Yamoja walls in 3, and Benny Q says, yes, please. Shuts them down. Kirmi in the back line playing goaltender to the fountain says, hey, you got to get through me if you want to heal up, and nobody did. Clean plays in the late game. Net them an awesome win.
No reverse sweep for us here, Miff. It looked like
we got plenty of a week ahead.
That's right. We got lots of games left to play. Unfortunately for the Captain Fan Club, no more games left to play here this weekend. The WINNERDOGS just they showed up in this best of 5 Miff with such a unique strategy. Doesn't it feel that way? What?
What's up?
Just because I know what to do with my hands when I'm on camera doesn't mean you got to make fun of me. I'm not even going to give you a chance to talk. WINNERDOGS, they take this one 3-0 in the best of 5. They will move on to the next round starting tomorrow. Miff and I will take a break. When we come back, the desk will break it down.
ba 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 ba.
Oh no, see there is, and now it's Hello and welcome back, and I'm not sure if you guys noticed the tiny little detail at the very end of that video. Yes, we just put out a Twitter announcement. We're going to tell you a little bit about it here. Hi-Rez Showcase has been extended by 1 extra day. Now starting on January 5th will be our Hi-Rez Showcase. Now on that Thursday instead, on the 6th, we'll be having a Throwback Thursday. We're going to have some past Worlds champions in, having all kinds of cool stuff going on that day. You can see the full schedule available to you guys on Throwback Thursday. Official tailgate, the streams live, a pregame show, look back with the past champions, some Let's Learn 1v1s, everybody's favorite thing that comes out of all of those, to look back with the casters. So many great things going to be happening out on the 6th, and then the showcase has been moved back to January 5th, so now instead of just a short 4-day event, we're going to have a 5-day event available to you guys. I'll have cosplay contests, Design a God, the Hi-Rez Presents, Season 9 update show, all kinds of great stuff happening. Again, now January 5th through January 9th. So if you guys are excited for some World Championship stuff, now we got one more extra day of fun available to all of you. Make sure to go over and check out all the extra details available. We just put up a blog post on it on our Twitter, so make sure you check that for more details and information towards there. Which makes me excited because now we get another day of fun with the Smite World Championships. But before we can even get to there, we got to talk about this game, Gormizer. A lot of battling back and forth early on. CAPTAINOTI looked really great. The fan club really popped off in the early game. But it seemed like that one little fight around the Phoenix just turned everything on its head.
Yeah, that was an absolutely nuts fight for them, right? And when you look at this game, realistically, the WINNERDOGS won 3 fights. They won 1 at Left Phoenix, 1 at Fire Giant, and 1 to kill the Titan. That is all they won in this entire game. There was so much that was in favor of the CAPTAINOTI fan club. And it's unfortunate because a lot of it was just, throwing anything they had at the WINNERDOGS. And you'd see Bevy Monster would go in, and for like 4 fights in a row, Bevy Monster would almost, but not quite, die, and you'd get out of there. But then during that Left Phoenix, it was just enough that the WINNERDOGS were able to retaliate. They jump forward, they open up a lot more, and then it becomes a little bit more presence from the jungle, right? All of a sudden, you have to start looking at where BennyQ is getting a lot of this free damage from and the setup that he's providing, but also specifically Kirmi separating and finding kills. I think it was onto Gunter during that FG fight, as well as zoning Coast super far away, and they forced Bevy Monster back to base. It's little things like that where, even though it wasn't an overwhelming victorious fight, it opened up enough of the map that they were able to get an EFG.
Yeah, this one little fight here that broke out after that Phoenix just spiraled out of control for CAPTAINOTI fan club. They fall down here in game number 3. A consolidated team effort from the entirety of WINNERDOGS to bring this one back. There's no one particular player that you can really pick out and go, this is the reason that they won. It's everybody really coming together there. Bevy dying under that Phoenix was a very unfortunate moment there for fan club, and is what allowed WINNERDOGS to now spiral things back. But Wowie putting out lots of damage. BennyQ struggled. I'll be putting honestly, he struggled very much so in the early stages of the game. Even Wowie was really put on the back foot. I mean, Coast was up like 4 or 5 levels to him at one point.
I mean, this was, again, if you watch this, you could cut this pretty much any moment prior to like 33 minutes and ask anybody who's winning this game, and it's CAPTAINOTI fan club through and through. It is just a couple of really good fights that are late game. Mifflin had even said it at one point. They were down by 8K, but there was a certain point where you could really start to feel that the gold didn't matter as much. And that was, for Mifflin, it was after the Fire Giant, right? Once that came through, the gold was almost negligible because it's like, yeah, you're down by 8K, but you've got an enhanced Fire Giant. The only thing that's really going to separate you is maybe some defense pots, and you are not getting a moment to breathe, to have the ability to go back and buy those. But realistically, what ended up happening, and I think this is important because you mentioned BennyQ's very lackluster early game, it's that build, because after a while, you just couldn't kill him. He just stayed alive. You get good ults from Gamma. It really just seemed to all stack up on itself. The entire team, I had mentioned this during picks and bans, transitioned well in the late game. And when you're down 8K, transitioning well in the late game's like not even half of it. Like that's maybe a third of the job. The rest of it was just really well executed plays, and that fight on the Phoenix really opened up the doors.
Yeah, there's kind of one player really on this WinnerDogs team to, I think, highlight over the course of this set here. It would be BennyQ, kind of the monster of the mid lane. You never know what's going to come out from him, but maybe we can kind of pick his brain a little bit with our post-game interview. Standing by is BennyQ. First off, congrats on your win today. Kind of give me some of your thought process here, Benny. You come into game number 1 with this shock, then you say, okay, let's go Anubis, and then he said, what goes on through your mind when you go through these picks and bans?
I kind of got last pick like all 3 games today, so I kind of get to see their whole team comp, and I just pick whatever kind of excels into their 5 characters.
Yeah, it seemed to work out really well for you. A little bit of a struggle there in that third game. Kind of what was that turning point for you? Was it really just kind of that last little Phoenix, or what was like their big push?
I think they made a few throws that game that like kind of gave us big shutdowns, so it wasn't as bad as it would have been if they played a little more slower. But our team comp was really good for sieges. So like we had Yamoja ESET, and we always kind of knew that like we had a good opportunity on birds or like phoenixes.
We got another set to play up tomorrow. You're going up against the Atlantis Leviathans. Any prep work that you guys have kind of to get you guys a better opposition to fight them?
Yeah, we have been like prepping for them for the most part, I think, and we didn't get to show anything today, so that's kind of a plus going into tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big benefit. Didn't have to show any of your cards, and now you get to move on and face off against Leviathans. Congrats, BennyQ, on the win. I'll let you celebrate with the team.
Thank you.
I think it was an important thing that he pointed out there at the very end is they didn't have to show anything. And when you look at the picks that they went with, Gore, that's saying something that a shock mid, Anubis and ESET is not showing their hand at all.
I'm so glad, because that's exactly what I thought. He said that, and I went, what? Like, I admittedly, like, I said for every single one of those drafts, hey, this feels very WinnerDogs-esque, but also, what? Like, I mean, you played some wild things. I think that's impressive for them, too. And it's honestly a great benefit as well, because unfortunately, this is the downside, right? You lose the SOC, so the open circuit team has now been eliminated. But if you're the WinnerDogs, you're absolutely happy because, yes, the Leviathans is the first team you have to go up against. That in and of itself is very frightening.
What a fun prize.
But you enter this double elim portion of it, right? So even if it's not going to be the set you want, you get, at the worst case scenario, you get 3 really good learning experiences in games, but you also have the capabilities of fighting back through the other half of the bracket. So it makes things pretty interesting for them going from this point forward. And knowing that they still have things in their pocket and that they've been preparing for the Leviathans makes me a lot more excited to see what that set's going to bring.
I mean, what a statement to say that we didn't have to show anything despite what we just witnessed here in these 3 games. Taking a look at the schedule, though, that is our first game of today for Group A. We'll be moving into Group B immediately afterwards. But looking ahead, it's going to be WinnerDogs against Atlantis Leviathans tomorrow. Solar Scarabs and the Oni Warriors will also face off tomorrow. And then the winners of those 2 sets face off on Finals Friday. And the losers will then face off on Saturday. So, as you said, the WinnerDogs, even if they lose against the Leviathans, they still have a shot up against the Solar Scarabs or the Oni Warriors, depending on which team gets eliminated from theirs. And if they win that, then there's only one more game that they would need, or one more set, I should say. And this team could potentially be at Worlds.
Yeah, if you look at the way the seeding was for the SBL, right, with Leviathans being a very overwhelming dominant force until like very recently with the Kings and the Titans, then you're kind of anticipating seeing them in the finals, probably going to Worlds, right? That's something that at this point it's not too outlandish to think of. But if you had the Scarabs, the Warriors, and now the WinnerDogs, like that's a very large, wild toss-up. And the fact that there's still upset potential here because, admittedly, again, a lot of changes have come through. We've always talked about it, but the Leviathans sometimes a little slower to adapt to some of these. And so with the right preparation, the right causes, we could have an absolutely wild scenario for Group A, and it makes things very, very exciting.
And it wouldn't be the first time at a qualifier or placement stage that we have seen SCC / it used to be former SML, the Smite Minor League, with a team like Simplicity, who was able to get wins on SPL teams and upset them. Sure, they didn't make it all the way to Worlds, but even getting one set win is enough to really throw a wrench into everything. But that's all for Group A. Now we have Group B coming up immediately after our break here. We're going to watch Sleekness, who was the number 4 SCC team going into the circuit playoffs, now the number 1 seed coming here for the NA side up against the number 1 seeded Elysium. Winner of that gets to face against the Jade Dragons tomorrow. What another great prize for these two teams. And then there'll also be the Olympus Bolts and Valhalla Valkyries. A look at the bracket for B. It's the exact same designs, here as Group A. It's just different teams throughout. Winners of those move to finals. Losers move to the bronze match, so on and so forth. But man, what a set that we get to come back to next. Now that we've seen the two number 2 seeds, quote unquote, technically the number 4 and what was like the number 2 going into their respective regions. Now we get to see the number 1s coming out of the Smite Circuit playoffs in our second set.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, personally, what Sleekness has to offer, because Elysium is nothing but names that we recognize and have been at the top of Europe for a long time. And at this point, they're expected greatness. But like you said, Sleekness did not come into their qualifying event as the top seed. They slowly rose up to the top. They've played really well. And if they're able to adapt well, I think this is also a really good, well, I guess adapting's on the other team, so it makes sense, a good chance for Elysium to show what they have to offer here as well. Both of these teams have a lot of promise behind them, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to be able to offer for this group.
Yeah, I mean, Elysium probably one of the only EU teams that actually does fight in this more North American style. So this one I've got a lot of high hopes for. We're going to take it to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have our second set of the day between Sleekness and Elysium.